Gather around, freaks. We're hitting the high seas for adventure and intrigue and treasure and ghosts and blood and confusion and horror. So gather around the internet transceiver and gather around the internet flaming garbage can, because it's time once again for another edition of... Hey, did you see this one?
With its covers tightly sealed and nightmares lurking within, the ancient book stirs ominously, whispering of unspeakable horrors and twisted sacrifices that have plagued the brave souls who dared to peek inside. But beware, for one of our sinister hosts has made a ghastly discovery. As the yellow pages were last turned, a malevolent truth unraveled. Pages are missing, each one leading to a dark realm far more terrifying than the tome itself. A place where madness reigns, monstrous abominations lurk, and mayhem consumes all who venture too deeply. This chilling revelation serves as a stark reminder that monsters manifest in a myriad of forms. And Hey, Did You See This One? Invites you to brave the darkest corners of mind, matter, and mystery in search of the Grimoire of Familiar Killers. Lost Pages.
Hi, everybody. It's time once again for your favorite show. It's called Hey, Did You See This One? And we're here, and it's the Grimoire of Familiar Killers, and it's open, and it's oozing glue and goo and boobs. No, I'm sorry for saying that. It's episode...
I mean, there are boobs in this.
That's true. I saw them. It's episode 189.
I don't know if they're oozing, but they're in it.
I think she starts oozing for a second when it cuts to her as like a demon for like a split second, but we'll get to that when we get to it. It's episode 189. Oh my goodness. Season 3, episode 40. I'll have news about why I'm doing this soon. We'll get all caught up, but we are, of course, talking about Ghost Ship from the year of our Lord 2022. Nope. 2002. It's not Titanic. It's not Deep Rising. It's a different ship. It's a different ship that sinks. Spoilers. It is also a special Wednesday edition of the show. So if you're like, why are these boyos live? It's because, well, it's been a tough week for us all. And we're getting this out of the way now so you can enjoy it all week.
I have to go to a wedding. So that's why we're doing it early, because I have other shit to do. Yeah. But I'm happy to do it on a Wednesday. A nice, super hot Wednesday. All my windows are open. We might hear some ambulances this episode.
People dying of heat exhaustion and heat stroke. It's
Ghost
30
ambulance.
degrees here in Toronto. The AC is cranked, but I'm still sweating. I'd like to welcome back to the show for I think the 7th or 8th time now. Captain Alex Gow, please welcome him back to the show. Thank you for
ahoy.
Thank you for taking some time out. I'd like to play this for everybody as well.
I'm coming, brother. Oh, be there soon. That's, of course, the star of Ghost Ship, the metal wire.
There's 3 of these I can put. If you make one where you go like this at the end, there's 3 of these I can put together to just create the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You coming, brother, that one, and then if you just go like that to throw the ring into Mordor or whatever those nerds do.
Mount Doom, yeah. He couldn't just go to the border of Mordor and just throw it into Mordor.
Yeah.
Their problem now.
Yeah.
No takes
figure it out. Figure it out, dorks. Yeah. Anyway,
first, orcs. Jesus.
Figure it out, orcs. I'd like to sort of here's the thesis statement for this whole movie.
Look, somebody's got to say it, and it might as well be me. This ship is fucked up, Murphy.
So we're gonna get into all that and more here on the show tonight. But first, we have to do a brief synopsis.
Oh my God. Who's it going to be?
It's time for a synopsis, bitch.
Freddie's so rude.
I know.
Oh, we love him around here.
But it's actually great because this movie kind of ends like a Nightmare on Elm Street film, which is awesome.
I mean, it's a horror trope in general, but it isn't a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So, do you want me to do it, or is Alex going to do it? Who's doing it?
Well, I didn't brief Alex, so
I'll do it.
Why don't you do it? Yeah.
When have I ever needed a briefing?
So, this movie is about a cruise ship that has all of the passengers die and vanishes for 40 years, and a salvage crew is offered a whole bunch of money, or not a whole bunch of money, but the prospect of a whole bunch of money to help a wayward helicopter pilot find it, drag it back to shore, and sell it. And this man demands 20%, but they're like, they haggle back and forth, and he eventually demands to come with them. And when they get to the ship, they realize it's haunted. It's super haunted by every soul that died and maybe more. We don't really see any of the modern ghosts, but mystery is afoot upon the ship. It's really well done, but basically they ramp up the mystery in a way that like we're privy to enough information, but there's a lot of kind of like mystery solving throughout, which I enjoyed, and was absolutely correct on every single thought that I was like, this is probably gonna happen, right? Yep, this is gonna happen, right? Yep, it's one of those movies. But yeah, I don't want to get too into like what happens at the end, but it's basically they find a ghost ship, there's ghosts on it, and they have to escape the ghost ship. That's more or less the tale of Ghost Ship.
Ghost Ship.
Yeah, because it's going to be fun to talk about as we go. I want to go through the entire thing right now. Yes, that's Ghost Ship. So brief synopsis complete. Shall we go right into our brief histories or what?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Right. Brief.
A brief history.
I'm just gonna go first quickly. I remember
Ghost
this movie,
first?
but yeah, I'm gonna ghost first. Goodbye. I saw this. I didn't see this movie. I knew it existed. That's pretty much it. It's not one that I ever saw on TV. I know none of my friends when I was 17 were like, we got to watch Ghost Ship, but I'm sure that it was played at many sleepovers for people my age. That's pretty much it for me though. How about you, Alex? Do you have a brief history for this film?
I did see this movie, and my brief history, I promise you, every single person who saw this movie has the exact same brief history. You find 1,000 people who have seen this movie, 1,001 of them will say, I remember the beginning and I don't remember anything else that happens in this movie.
That was
every single person who watched it in 2002 or sometime after in the home release, but not recently, that's what they remember.
It is so crazy you say that because my friend Cody messaged me, like I posted this up, and he messaged me and said, I think about the wire cutting scene every day of my life.
Oh, wow.
Alex is not lying. I had the exact same experience. My brief history is that I remember everybody getting cut in half, and that's all I remember. I don't remember.
I know that that's your brief history. That is the universal brief history of this.
And I absolutely saw it. I remember.
I will say I don't remember where I saw this. I saw this movie in an unfamiliar basement. And I wasn't. What I will say is I was not with my core group of friends.
Maybe so it was my basement. We watched it together. We don't even remember that.
Honestly, this could have been your basement. There's a chance that it could have been.
There is a small chance, but there is a chance. But I don't remember. Yeah, I remember. I didn't remember who was in it. I didn't remember what the plot was. I didn't even remember that it switches to modern day. Like I didn't remember anything. I don't remember the trailer. I remember nothing. I think there's maybe one moment where I visually clued in. I'm like, I feel like I remember what happens here, but that was.
I don't remember. I will when we get to it. I will say this is the only part that I remembered. Not certainly not before watching it again, but while watching it, there was a scene where I'm like, oh, I remember this.
I'm curious if it's the same spot as me, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, we all had a similar experience with our brief histories. Brief histories complete.
Complete.
Yeah.
Production talk.
Yeah. We're going into production.
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of
Sound. Speed. Action!
Is this what it looks like when you make a movie? Anyway, stupid.
I muted my mic because there's an ambulance.
Oh, yeah. Do I
Pound, summer in the city
on me so that I don't die?
Okay.
Yeah, that's understandable. I didn't do any research, so I'm just going to tell you a fact about this movie. According to Wikipedia, a 35-foot, 1:20 scale model of the doomed ship Antonia Graza was built by Photon VFX for exterior shots, combined with CGI and a full-scale bow built on a hillside, because shooting through the narrow corridors of a real ship was logistically impossible.
Not a real ship.
Not a real ship.
The Graza is not a real ship.
Oh yeah, like the history. Yeah,
the ship. The ship in the movie. It's not like It's not like Titanic, where the Titanic was a real ship. This ship was.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be kind of disrespectful if an actual cruise ship went missing and they're like, they all got cut in half by fucking psychopaths poisoned each other. Yeah,
and Mudvayne was there a lot.
Was that Mudvayne? That's amazing.
If you ever wondered if it was Mudvayne, the answer is yes. They use Mudvayne a lot in this movie. And by a lot, I mean twice, but that's a lot for Mudvayne in a movie.
That's more than a lot of movies.
Yeah.
I'm just pulling up the wiki here to find out it's so it cost 20 mil to make. Box office at 68.3. So that's almost not almost triple, not even close. So no sequel. Do you guys think that this movie was meant to have a sequel based on that, ending, or did they just do the horror trope just cuz?
I think it was just supposed to be like a
Yeah, I mean, there's always a chance that they could have, if the movie made enough money, like they would have been like, well, we have that setup, that premise is there, but I don't think that they were
the second one would have been taking place on a bus in LA.
I was just gonna say a bus.
A reverse speed. Why did we both think that?
I don't know.
Funny play on words. Also, the bus has to go backwards.
The whole time watching this movie, I was thinking about Speed 2 Cruise Control and Deep Rising. So
I wonder why you thought those two things.
Well, I was saying to Alex in the beginning that where Deep Rising feels like a Portal to Hell movie, like a Event Horizon. This feels like a haunted house movie more than. Well,
Event Horizon feels like a haunted house movie as well.
That feels like a Portal to Hell to me, but I can see what you're saying there as well.
I mean, the ship itself is like the spooky. It's like a spooky mansion. It's even designed to look like a fucking cathedral.
Like the lightning going off outside because there's like a solar
makes no
storm.
sense in space. Yeah. Anyway, we've talked about Event Horizon.
Yeah, it's true. And Deep Rising, if you want to go check that out. This on another podcast. This movie was directed by Steve Beck. Steve Beck is known for 13 Ghosts, which we almost did.
Yeah, that was the other movie we were almost going to do instead of the.
I never saw that.
It's okay. It's pretty good.
I didn't watch the other 12, so I never.
Yeah, I've only seen the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo.
I saw Ghost. Sorry, I saw Ghost. But then the rest of them I missed.
Right. We'll probably do that on a Lost Pages in the future at some point. But I mean, if Ghost Ship is any sort of like tale of this guy's pedigree, I think I would enjoy that. I think I'd enjoy 13 Ghosts.
Yeah.
Also, like that movie, I've definitely seen it, but I cannot remember a single second of it past like one or two sequences of ghosts being revealed.
Interesting note about this guy is he worked for ILM and worked on visual effects for Hunt for Red October, The Abyss, and the last Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, and In Search of, which I think is an interesting little piece of trivia. But it's interesting. This guy doesn't have a lot of credits. Do you have any insight on
ghost
that?
Movies that didn't make any money?
He probably finished his magnum opus Ghost Ship and then wandered into the ocean to die, knowing his life is complete.
Yeah,
he did it.
He made his own real life ghost ship.
Back out, dude.
Yeah, but you know, it's one of those things where like the movies aren't bad. It's just they didn't perform well, and when that happens to you too many times in a row, unless you're somebody with a massive talent and a bunch of movies under your belt, you're not going to get to keep making movies. They're going to say no after a while.
Yeah.
But then there's also the rare case where it's like
someone else who hasn't fucked up yet.
Yeah, but then not the opposite, but like another sort of like branch of that is sometimes your movies are so poorly received critically that you lose any kind of passion for filmmaking. You're like, I'm gonna go back to special effects. Fuck.
Yeah, I'm gonna do car commercials again.
Yeah, people are hating me. But I don't know. I don't know what the story is for Steve Beck. But I'll tell you, I like this movie, and I think I like 13 Ghosts as well, and I definitely like all of his special effects work. So good for Steve Beck.
Good pedigree. Speaking of special effects, according to Wikipedia, the haunted ballroom transformation was created by filming two sets, a derelict and a pristine. I don't really know what that means. Maybe a
derelict meaning it's a junkie, and the other one meaning it's
pristine was
nice.
the one where it wasn't derelict.
Yeah, so the past and future. Using 80 plus layers of motion control photography for seamless supernatural reveal. So
I think that that sequence in general, I think that the transformation of the room looks really good, but the guy walking around in the room looks absolutely terrible. It looks like shit. Where I'm like, get the guy out of there and just have that room transformation, because I think it looks incredibly good.
It took me out of it when the room transformation was happening. He was trying to wrestle his dick out of his pants the whole time.
Yeah,
that was.
And he's like, you can't cheat if they're dead, right?
Yeah. That's the only other scene that was familiar to me, was the room restoring itself.
Okay.
That's
that wasn't the one.
I was like, I remember that.
Yeah. I'll tell you what mine is when we get to it.
Okay. All right.
The movie was filmed across 3 continents, according to Wikipedia as well. And this is notable because it was shot in Australia, as well as Canada, including Halifax and Vancouver. And a third country that isn't mentioned here for some reason. I assume the United States.
Yeah, it's because it no longer exists. The country no longer exists. Yeah.
The USSR.
Put it in H.
Put it in H.
That bar was probably Halifax.
Yeah. My notes kind of talk about how
excuse me,
he worked on 13 Ghosts. Well, he directed 13 Ghosts and worked on ILM. He also had cinematographer Gail Tattersall and composer John Frizzle, and they worked together to create a unique aesthetic. I thought that the score was pretty good. I thought that there was a lot of really, like, that sequence we just talked about was really awesome. And the movie has
but
like,
what are those? The cinematographer, do you know what else he's done? Like,
let me take a look.
All right,
let's take a look.
If we're gonna mention him, we gotta at least mention stuff he's done, or else it means absolutely nothing.
I know Chad Gray did some of the music as well. He's the lead singer of Mudvayne.
Mostly that scene where he's blasting Mudvayne.
Yeah, just blasting Mudvayne, and then the end credits was the same song.
Oh, he's also directed a bunch.
Yeah, tell us about that. You got to him before I did, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Tank Girl.
Oh, music for Tank Girl?
No, I'm talking about the cinematographer.
Oh.
13 Go. Oh wait, yeah. Sorry, no. He did not. He did not direct Tank Girl. He did the cinematography for Tank Girl. He also worked on Ghost Ship. Yeah, nothing that I know. So I can't really speak to his work other than Tank Girl.
I'm glad you heavily insisted that we look into it.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying if we're gonna mention his name, we should probably know who the fuck he is.
Okay, okay. He was the cinematographer for all of House, the television program House.
Oh, there we go. Tank Girl though has good cinematography. That's one of the strengths of that film, in my opinion. And the kangaroo people suits. Those are the two good parts of that movie.
Who did the kangaroo people suits for Ghost Ship?
Let's look it up. Yeah. Steve Beck did that as well.
I legitimately just had a moment where I was like, "Have we done Tank Girl?" Because that's such a Hey, did you see this one movie?
We did Warriors of Virtue though, didn't we? Or did we just talk about doing it?
I think we talked about it. I think I'm thinking of.
If we do Tank Girl, we should do Warriors of Virtue at the same time. The reason I say that is because I'm pretty sure they reused the kangaroo costumes for both movies.
I also vaguely remember Virtuosity, but it might have been like a sister movie to Johnny Mnemonic.
Johnny Mnemonic also feels like it could take place in the Tank Girl universe.
Yeah.
But anyway. let's get back to Ghost Ship.
Just one other thing. Yeah. John Frizzell, still working to this day, as recently as Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. He composed for Office Space. So he's one of Mike Judge's guys.
Mike Judge's guys, yeah.
Yeah. The Beavis and Butthead TV, the reboot TV show he worked on. Did you guys ever see Mike Judge Presents Tales from the Tour Bus? It's like a mini series that Mike Judge animates, but it's people telling stories about different musician stories from the 70s and 80s, and it's actually really good. Like Bootsy Collins and Prince and what's that guy who's always sweaty and coked out who dances? Living in America. James Brown.
James Brown, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good.
What a respectful way to describe James Brown.
Yeah,
the coked out guy who's dancing all the time.
Listen,
so
that's
sweaty.
That's how millennials kind of remember him.
Brown.
Yeah. So anyway, if you haven't checked that out, he's one of Mike Judge's guys. That's an interesting little tidbit. Yeah.
He also did the music for Mudvayne? He's the drummer for Mudvayne.
No, but if you told me he could be.
Yeah, I don't even know what Mudvayne is, guys. So you're like, is that the guy from Mudvayne? And I'm like, who is Mudvayne? I'll look.
Did Mudvayne have a hit?
I don't know. I didn't even know Mudvayne.
Yeah, the song in this movie, "Not Falling," was probably their biggest song.
Is that the song at the end when they're all dying? Okay.
Yeah,
I kind of like that.
It's also the song that the guy plays while he's like rocking out while piloting the ship through the storm.
Oh, I didn't even notice it was the same song.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
now that's an interesting fact. We should have a buzzer for that.
I saw them the year after this movie came out. They opened for Metallica.
They did their Ghost Ship tour.
Yeah.
Ironically,
Mudvayne's interesting because they have a pretty significant meme as well. They have this music video for a song where
Dig.
Yeah, for Dig. And this is if you know kind of thing. I thought that was Mudvayne. But I don't know. Once in a while I'll go look up Mudvayne and just watch the music video for this because it's pretty good. It's a pretty good song that was memed to hell because of the way that the bassist looks.
Yeah.
And the opening bass riff is insane.
They're like a weird cross section of ICP and Slipknot.
Yeah.
Like visually.
Yeah, they look like what you imagine Slipknot would look like when they take their masks off.
Yeah.
I listened to the first 24 seconds of Dig, and I was like, oh yeah, now I know. I know my Mudvayne. I know my Mudvayne, guys.
Your one Mud song.
Yeah. Oh, that's how you spell Mudvayne. I was spelling it wrong.
24 seconds.
Vayne.
Yeah. I was spelling it like a vein in your arm.
Even the spelling of burp thing.
Oh man, Mudvayne mentioned. God. Jesus Christ.
Oh, I'm gonna have to call in sick tomorrow because we're not even gonna be done this fucking episode by the time I'm gonna go to work in the morning.
No, I'm just gonna start showing Mudvayne memes for the next hour. We can go. I think we can go into the body of the episode.
All right. We don't want to name like the best boy and the first AD or anything.
Yeah.
No? Okay. Let's go into the body of the episode.
The body of the episode.
Oh, another fun fact about this film is that we just did 2 Julianna Margulies movies in a row accidentally. Epps was Claire and Snakes on a Plane, which we did last week.
You haven't surfaced from beneath the ocean yet, Jason.
Do I have to say all over again?
I think you were saying that the actor from last week is in this movie as well.
Julianna Margulies. Was in Snakes on a Plane last week. It blew my mind. Also, I wanted to point out that you can kind of connect all 4 of the movies this week.
I know that this, and I did my own connecting, and I thought that was what you meant, and you're like, not really, but okay.
You got it exactly, actually. So first we did John Carpenter's Village of the Damned, which, of course, John Carpenter's related to the star of Hell Comes to Frogtown, Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper got a start from that movie, and John Carpenter saw that propelled him to stardom in the filmosphere, I guess, kind of.
In the film, in the movie They Live, we should say that because that's an amazing movie. Village of the Damned, not so great, but They Live, one of his best movies.
It's true. Then Hell Comes to Frogtown has frog people, and then Snakes on a Plane has snake people, both. Nope, just snakes.
Yeah, it's regular snakes.
I connect those because they're both cold-blooded. I was like, are they amphibious? Nope, only one's
My thought was like because the guy has a snake for a dick, because there's a part in Hell Comes to Frogtown where there's a guy who has 3 dicks and they're all snakes. And I was like, is that the connection? But that wasn't the connection. It was that they're cold-blooded. I was like, okay, sure.
Solid connection, though.
Yeah.
And then Julianna Margulies, it was in Snakes on a Plane, and she's in.
Isn't that what they say in Game of Thrones when they hire a faceless man to kill somebody or whatever? No.
Which part of what I said?
Yeah.
Her name.
Oh yes.
Julianna Margulies.
Yeah.
Jagan Hagar's sister.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened before, other than genre. It was a happy accident, folks.
It reminds me of Jurassic Park because they're reptiles.
Yep.
Yes. They're also frogs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Dino DNA.
DNA. All right. Well.
Okay. Yeah.
The beginning of this movie is, like Alex was saying in his brief history, probably the most memorable moment in not just this horror movie, but in many horror movies. So much so that you can mention the name of this movie to most people, maybe not most people, but anyone who's heard of the movie.
Anyone as old or older than us.
Yeah. And I think it was probably heavily featured in the trailer or something, because I know that even people who haven't seen the movie know of it. They know of the bisection of dozens of people.
I've written the greatest bisection of our time.
It probably is. And Alex would know because he's been here for every movie that's had a bisection in it.
This is your 3rd bisexual movie.
Yeah.
For Pride Month as well. Yeah. Fantastic.
I wrote Mel Gibson's dead wife in Signs could only dream of this level of torso separation.
Yeah. Or that shitty fucking bully in Christine.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to see his bisection. But yeah, the movie opens with a cruise ship in the 1960s. I think it's 1962, I believe. And there is a mysterious gloved hand figure walking about as all of the guests of this cruise ship are having a great time listening to music and dancing, except for one little girl who's so fucking bored that she has some crazy toy that you use to spell words or something. I don't even know if that was a real thing or if they made it up specifically for this movie, but
just so they could have something spooky to have words on.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't make a Ouija board.
Exactly. We're not allowed yet. They weren't invented and we'll get sued. I don't know. Maybe this thing. It's a bunch of fucking blocks and I put like a wire through it and she's like spinning it around and spelling words and she spells "I'm so bored" or something on it. And
it's weird that it was only used one more time in the movie too. When I saw that, I was like, "Oh, they're gonna go."
You see it a couple of times, but it only does something once. It's not an important thing, considering how heavily they, showcase it at this beginning moment. But yeah, she fiddles with it to say "I'm so bored," and then I think he's the captain of the ship comes up and asks her to dance, and she's dancing with him, and you see the mysterious gloved hand figure throw a switch of some kind. And a wire goes extremely taut and zips essentially in like the blink of an eye across the entire dance floor of the deck of this ship. And there's a very disturbing, maybe like minute and a half of everybody looking around as all their clothes fall off and they slowly just fall to pieces to the ground. And I gotta say, the effect still holds up. Even the kind of shoddy CGI of some bits of it, it's like, I was still like, oh my God. I remembered being a child and seeing this and having like my heart in my throat being like, I don't know if I can handle this movie. This ghost ship is too spooky already.
I think most of it is like good practical. And the only real CGI that I noticed was like, if they show like the inside of a head or like when the torso's cut, you see like the top.
Well, that's the only digital you notice. That's why I'm saying it still holds up because there's like a lot of stuff going on. Like when the guy is falling, and the top half removes itself from the bottom half, it's practical mixed with digital. And there's like, I even looked up how they did the effect, and there's like a guy he's got like a green screen on half of his body and people guiding him to the ground while the other half is fake and being pulled away. And there's like two puppeteers pulling it and they're wearing green suits and stuff. And you're like, that is digital effects.
That's
done
ILM shit.
Perfection. Dude. Yeah, exactly. And even like when the guy's head falls off the top of his head and like the part with like the arm still smoking or whatever, it's all very gruesome, but it's super well done. And I will say for me, still very effective.
The captain's head getting cut definitely made me think of Resident Evil.
Yeah, this movie in general there's a lot of Resident.
There's a lot of a lot of things made me think of Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Because the weird opening of this movie too is like the Warner Brothers logo comes up. I was also surprised it was a Warner Brothers movie, but Warner Brothers pops up in like an old timey kind of font, and the woman singing in a ballroom in Italian, and it feels very jovial. It feels very like I wasn't sure what was going to happen.
Very tonally. I was watching it online, and with the intro, the beginning, I was like, "Oh, am I on the right movie?"
Yeah,
right.
Because tonally, it was so wrong to what I knew the movie was, which I think it definitely gets you in the mood for the cruise ship.
Well, I think that's why it's so shocking, because the juxtaposition of like a really well done horror sequence, just suddenly,
for sure.
I think that really underlined it well.
A very good jarring tone switch for sure. And just like the horror, like the top down view of just everybody like squirming around, and like that woman trying to put herself back together and shit. You're like, oh my God, this is some Saving Private Ryan shit going on here.
Yeah.
And it also adds immediate mystery to the movie, which I appreciated. And I thought we were going to maybe get a little bit more of, but they give you just enough for you to be like, what the fuck happened on this ship? And you want to know. And guess what? You don't get to know until 40 years later.
Yeah.
And
it also seemed like it seemed like the ship was like farther back in time than 1962. to me.
I thought they said 1862, and I would have believed that.
Yeah.
I agree. I think maybe they were they probably picked an aesthetic, and then they're like, well, we have to make it make sense, I guess. And I don't know. I mean, really.
It could have made it like it could have been from like the Titanic times, and it would have made total sense to me.
I guess you're right. If it's soul collecting demons, you don't need to put a timer on it. But
they didn't invent like razor wire until.
I think that for me, they aesthetically they wanted to have that sort of like post 1950s sort of like Art Deco look, like the sort of like the Rapture from like.
Yeah, but who would have known? You and like 3 other people.
Yeah, the people who matter. Yeah. I was wondering when I was watching this, I'm like, I wonder if the BioShock games in any way there was like an influence on the creators of that game from this, and a couple of other video games too. Actually, I'm like, how big was this on? Because I mean, BioShock came out in what, like 2005 ish.
Probably
a little bit later than that.
Yeah, it's a pretty old. It's a pretty old game now, for sure.
But I don't know if you guys have ever played the Man of Medan, the video game, like the Dark Pictures game.
No, I never did. I bought it because you told me to, and then I never played it.
Oh, well, we can still play it together, Alex.
Right here on this very channel.
Yeah. I played it with Brian Highgate, former guest of the show. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff in that game that was like lifted right out of this. I was like, they are making a ghost ship.
I think pretty much all media after October of 2002 was based on Ghost Ship.
I think you're right. And Ghost Ship is also based on all media previous to Ghost Ship.
Whoa.
They
including Resident Evil that came out seven months earlier.
Yeah. And including Alien, which the next scene is basically just the same concept as Alien, but in water, which the concept of Alien is the idea of a tugboat. So you're just like, who stole from who? No one. It's just a fun idea. You know, a ragtag group of tow truck drivers, basically, collecting for a company. But the difference here is that they're sort of piratey, right? Like they're like, what's on the sea belongs to us.
Scrappy, yeah.
That's a good comparison because Julianna,
ocean law.
Her character Epps is kind of like a Ripley a little bit. She's final girl, but she also is very like strong female protagonist kind of character who's always telling the guys to like shut up and listen to what I'm trying to tell you.
What I wrote was Michelle Rodriguez was busy making Resident Evil, so they got this one.
Yeah. And I think that's a good call, right? Because like the male characters in this movie are kind of testosterone-y goofballs. If this movie was made today, people would scream woke or whatever, but those people need to shut up. I think it's I had no fucking clue what was going on when she's zip lining across to the other oil rig thing that they're dragging or whatever. And it's like, okay, it's sinking, but there's a tiny scratch, and then they start welding it. I'm like, okay, how did they get all the water out? And then I guess later in the movie you can kind of logically connect it together. Like, I guess they just pumped it out or whatever. But
yeah, there's a lot of like foreshadow bits that have slight payoffs later, and I think that's to show that they do this welding thing, right?
Well, yeah, I don't think I would consider it foreshadowing so much as just showing what they do, like what are their jobs, you know? Yeah.
I don't know. There's a foreshadowing moment that I thought was pretty funny where he looks down the elevator shaft and then falls down the very same elevator shaft later, which is like,
yeah, that would be foreshadowing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's you get to see their dynamic and what exactly they do, right? Like she's basically like the spotter, and then there's like the spot welder who jumps in after her, and like the Aragorn. I mean, Carl Urban. I've been calling him Aragorn for 20 years. I should probably just say his real name.
Yeah, or at least the real character that he plays.
Munder? What's his name?
No, he doesn't play Aragorn, is what I'm saying.
Oh, sorry. Fucking what's his name?
Éomer, isn't it?
Éomer.
Éomer?
Yeah.
His name is Éomer.
Éomer, the horse lord.
Yes.
How about young Carl Urban doing like a really good American accent?
Yeah, really.
He didn't slip up to the point that I was like, wait, is the butcher British accent like Cockney British like put on? But he does.
That's not his real accent.
Yeah, but he doesn't have
an American accent either.
Yeah.
He's Australian.
Just do accents.
Oh yes, that's right.
He's doing a very different accent.
I thought he was from the Kingdom of Rohan.
He is. That's in Australia.
Oh,
Yeah. It's a
I thought he was from
province.
Asgard, and he wanted to show us his things.
Oh yeah. He gets
Remember
around
when he
that
had
guy.
two
Oh,
AK-47s?
it took me, I was like, what the fuck is that reference? Like, and my brain Rolodex was like, and then I then landed on him with machine guns. I'm like, oh yes, I remember. Now I remember. Yeah.
Behold my things, my stuff.
Yeah, he says stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
One Marvel was still must see every single time. Listen, well, Thor Ragnarok is a great movie.
Thor Ragnarok is a great movie.
All right. I don't want to argue about you guys. I'll argue about you guys with someone else.
So a man comes to them and tells them about the boat in the Arctic and the Bering Strait. I immediately wrote, where do I know this guy from? He is a pretty major character on Dexter.
Yeah, he shows up. I went through the same journey as you of Googling this guy and being like, oh yeah, he's the guy he's the guy who kind of shakes it up when he joins the Miami like cops or whatever. He shows up in season 3. He's not in it from the beginning, but then he's kind of like wise to Dexter.
After surprise motherfucker goes away, he kind of replaces that character.
Yeah,
he's a different characterization.
Kind of his shoes, yeah.
Yeah. And then
I remember him from Wrong Turn. Another.
He's kind of like a Temu Paul Walker.
A little bit, I would say.
He's a good journeyman, right? Like he's just kind of around. He's been bumping around since about this time.
He's a pretty good actor,
99.
and he's got a solid jawline. I wonder if he's in any action stuff, because I could see him as an action hero and an action villain. I didn't really look up his IMDb though.
Not small though.
Yeah, he's in the Dark Knight Rises as Uniform.
He's just there. He's just like, I just want to be in this thing.
Yeah. He's in a lot of TV, but yeah, he's just kind of like a bit part actor. But yeah, I think he does this role pretty well. But immediately you're like, something's up with this guy, right? Right?
I didn't think that at all.
I didn't think that at all.
I saw the bags under his eyes and the desperation in his face, and I'm like, he's a ghost probably. And the movie
didn't clock that one bit for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've just seen a lot of fucking stupid horror movies, so I was immediately like, "There's something wrong with this guy." I didn't immediately think he was a ghost, but I was like, "Why does he want to go there so badly?"
There's a Scooby-Doo-ness to it where it's like,
exactly. Like they're gonna pull the mask off at some point, and it'll be an Italian ghost, like "Mamma mia!" But I was immediately suspicious of him, and the movie does an admirable job of trying to shake that suspicion the entire time. But unfortunately for the movie, every time they did it, I was becoming more and more suspicious of this guy. I didn't expect it to go fully to where it went until a certain point, and then I was like, oh, this is going to be something wild. But we'll talk about it when we get there. But I do think that his introduction it adds like another layer of intrigue, right? Because like, we know the ship, something horrible happened on the ship, but it seemed like somebody did it, right? So we're like, but somebody killed them. So what happened after that? And we don't get to find out until they go to the ship. But we're introduced a little bit more in depth to all of the motley crew of, what is it called? The Arctic Warrior is their ship, I think?
The Arctic Warrior.
And, they kind of all get like a moment for us to explore their personalities and their backgrounds and what they're all about. Two of them are just sort of like horny idiots.
I can't. Or the one guy's like, it's like, I can't go. I got a fiance at home, and he's like,
Greer.
I'm gonna get married and shit. And he's just like,
better not fuck a ghost.
Yeah,
that's like his entire persona is that he's going to get married soon.
Yeah,
but he can't turn down money.
No.
But then like Murphy, the captain guy, like played by Gabriel Byrne, he's like, I'll do anything for money. And that's kind of his whole shtick for this as well. It seems like they go and do these scavenger runs with reckless abandon, and then they just bring back whatever they can possibly, get a little bit of money out of.
But also
this scene, when you said part of it was filmed in Halifax, this seemed like Halifax to me. It's like almost like a fishing boat analogy where it's like, someone's like, I want to go home to my family. It's like, well, it's like, or you can go on the fishing boat, you can make money.
I'd rather do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they all discuss the situation and agree to go. I wrote, this guy's getting married in a month. They're so dead.
Yeah, it's basically the equivalent of I've got 4 more days to retirement or whatever.
Yeah.
And they all agree that they're going to do it, but the guy who tells them about the boat wants a 20% finder's fee. They offer 10, and he says, "Fine, but I get to come with you." And they're like, "Absolutely fucking not! It's so dangerous. You don't know what you're doing." And he's like, "I don't care. You're going to run away with my doubloons or whatever, my treasure."
I'm only taking 10%. You have to take me with you.
Yeah, but none of them know what it is because he's got these aerial photographs of it, right? And it's like could be military. They don't even know what type of boat it is. That's how kind of crappy the photos are. But it's intriguing to them nonetheless because it looks pretty big. And I assume I don't really know anything about this kind of line of work, but I assume if you find a big giant hunk of metal in the ocean and
then you can just scrap it or whatever.
You can scrap it and sell it for a pretty penny.
They mention the rules of the ocean, the rules of the sea, but they never really go into it. They're just kind of like, well,
it's sea law. Yeah, he says it's
nobody knows
it
exists, so I guess that's the law of the sea. We keep it.
There's probably actual laws about like international waters and finding things.
And it's pretty extensive. But
I know there was that artist like a few years ago who found like a sunken ship that had a bunch of golden statues on it, and he paid like $1 billion to have it all excavated, and then made a ton of money off of the excavation by like putting it in museums and stuff. But he technically owns all that shit, even though it's like lost civilization's riches. He's like, no, it's mine now. I paid for it.
Depending on where the ship sinks, it belongs to the country that the ship is sailing under.
Right. Complicated sea laws. I don't know.
Who owns the Titanic? Do we know?
James Cameron.
Yeah. He's got a nice piece of beachfront property down there.
Yeah.
He's the only one that can successfully go to it because the other attempts. Well,
the British government tried to take it, but he fended them off from underneath the water.
Yeah, from under the sea.
Under the sea.
And he was successful with it, and that's the plot of Avatar 3, probably.
I didn't realize
spoilers
how much
for Titanic.
Titanic. I didn't realize how much like Alien this is until you mentioned it, because this next sequence is like the driver of the boat's rocking out to Mudvayne while the rest of the crew is just shooting the shit, and we just kind of get to know their characters a bit, like just like in the
this movie is they play-by-play went through the script and screenplay of Alien, and almost to the minute did exactly what fucking Alien did. They spent the exact amount of time up to finding the ship, exploring the ship, going back to their ship, and then going back into the ship. Like they minute to minute, even the point where like you first see the chest bursting alien in Alien is almost to the minute when the fucking boat blows up. It's and I mean it's not a bad idea.
But
lots of movies do it. I'm not knocking Ghost Ship for using the template of Alien for this strategy. Even Ridley Scott,
one of the greatest horrors ever
when
made.
He goes back and makes his own Alien movies again. He's like, I'm gonna do exactly what I did in Alien with Prometheus.
Let's watch it. Let's do a double feature where we watch Ghost Ship and Alien at the same time, but only listen to the audio of Ghost Ship and keep Alien sound off and compare and contrast. I think that would be a fun thing to do.
I think it'd be very funny to see when they start blasting Mudvayne and Alien.
Yeah.
I wrote your options for entertainment on this tugboat are watching Kung Fu, listening to Mudvayne, or getting a haircut when you're already bald.
And treating the woman like a fucking misogynistic asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah,
as one does.
But she seems to act like it's like, oh, they're all like my brothers, but they're all being like weird horny pigs to her all the time. I'm like, I don't know what kind of brothers you got. Pretty bad ones, I think.
They're
to show that she's a tough lady. She can deal with the bullshit of the manosphere of the ocean or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a fucking fly in this room. We get that bit where as Santos is rocking out, this is the name of the ship driver. He's not the captain, but he's the pilot, I suppose it would be.
Yeah.
He catches a glimpse of something on the radar for just a moment.
We don't know.
He calls up Murph. Murph catches a glimpse of it. It's not there at first. He seems to know the ship, the Antonia Graza, which I mentioned in the opening bit. And it was reported missing in the 60s. And it just disappeared. Just disappeared into the night. And it appears right in front of them as they're sort of seeing it on the radar, which I thought was interesting. And
we almost get another bisection. Doesn't happen.
Yeah.
A boat bisection. A boat sexual.
No, that guy falls off. Remember, and he's almost gonna get.
Oh
smoked,
yeah.
And then he pulls himself up in the nick of time, and they decide to go check things out. But we get a little bit of exposition as to what happened to the ship, but more or less, they don't know. It's just like it's a ghost ship. Well, they don't call it a ghost ship yet, right? Isn't there like there's a specific thing?
There's a title drop moment.
There is, but there's a specific like set of criteria for something to be considered a ghost ship according to this movie. I don't know if that's the
like
actual criteria.
It's like if you see a ship traveling on its own with nobody on it.
If it doesn't have any means of piloting itself, but it still gets from one point to another that it's like destined to go to or whatever, that it like is considered a ghost ship.
So I wanted to ask you guys, does this ship exist in reality? It does, right?
No, it doesn't.
No.
It's a fake ship. It's like
they made it up for the movie.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, in the context of the film, the ship that we go up to, it does exist.
Yeah, it's a physical. It's a physical place.
It's not a literal ghost ship. It's that's how it gets blown up at the end, and all the ghosts fly out like a egg cracked.
Well,
or
like
whatever.
Titanic's.
Yeah. Which I do not understand the rules of this movie at that part, but I don't really care. Like,
the rules.
They try to hail the Graza, and I was thinking, I'm like, calling your tugboat the Arctic Warrior must give ships you're hailing the wrong impression.
Yeah,
if you are lost at sea and then a ship comes up and you can't really see what's going on because your ship's disabled or whatever. Yeah, and they're like, this is the Arctic Warrior, and you'd be like,
respond.
Don't answer. Pretend we're not here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're clearly pirates.
Yeah, like
the Arctic Warrior sounds like a menthol protein powder.
Yeah, it also sounds like a Scandinavian death metal band.
Yeah.
We randomly find out that Epps and Murph are like father and daughter when Jack, the ghost man, is like, what's the deal with them? I don't know what the point of that was. There's just a picture of them like hugging.
Yeah, he thought maybe they were together, and that was just to establish for us, the audience, that he is a father figure to her, to basically strengthen their relationship to us as audience members without having to do a lot of like schmaltzy back and forth, like, you're like a daughter to me, kid, or whatever.
Instead they did the Ian Malcolm she's not available, is she?
Yeah. No. All right. Gee whiz.
I wrote that Murphy seems out of place. Like, he looks like he's dressed for the track, but but he's like good at going to the track. He's not.
Is he wearing it looks like he's wearing an ascot.
Yeah, it does. It looks like he is, but he's not, because I thought the same thing and looked.
He's dressed. He's dressed like Alan Grant from.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. So I'm like,
no hat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And sometimes he seems like he has an accent, and sometimes he doesn't.
Yeah, I think he has an Irish accent in real life, and it sounds like it's just popping through every once in a while.
A little bit.
But I think they were probably like on set. They're like, "Who gives a fuck what accent he has? He could be from
your name is Murphy. Do an Irish accent. It's fine."
But it's also like, if he's trying to do another accent and it slips, it's like, just let him do it. You're like a man of the world. You've lived all over the place.
Yeah,
you might have a weird accent. Yeah.
Also, you're Gabriel Byrne from the Usual Suspects. You can fucking do whatever you want. Yeah. You got a great pedigree. The the when they go onto the ship, it kind of reminded me, like I said before, Event Horizon and Sunshine, where it's that like everything's like really spooky. They kind of mention that, these old ships, if you you can slip through the floor very easily. It's like quicksand. Coming up, we do get a scene that's like that, and the first thing they really see though is like the freaky clock trope, where a clock just starts going nuts. And just for the audience, that word thing that Steve was mentioning earlier changes to welcome aboard. Us.
She had written bored. I'm so bored. And it switches to welcome aboard. I immediately was like, okay. Thank you.
I was
ghosts.
Was that a trailer thing? Like, did they that was probably in the trailer?
Yeah, it's just a dumb fucking thing. Who gives a shit? Ridley Scott wouldn't do it. Ridley Scott's not brave enough to do that in his movies.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, remember when the alien said "Welcome aboard"?
the little mouth said it.
Welcome aboard. But they, the radio starts to crackle as the crew goes deeper. Carl Urban falls through the floor. They catch him, and that's when Epps sees the ghost girl for the first time. And I wrote, I guess the only survivor died. She was the only survivor, but we find out later that's not true.
Yeah.
And then I was like, did she run out of food? Like, why didn't she survive? But
I also thought about that. Obviously, we know why later. But I was thinking, I'm like, was everybody on the ship on the deck?
Yeah.
I'm like, there wasn't somebody who was just like, I'm not gonna go up to the deck party tonight. I'm gonna sleep.
Yeah.
Lucky
for us,
the crew and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
lucky for us, within minutes of me thinking that, because I was like, no, that didn't kill everybody. And I'm like, did it go through the whole ship and everybody in the dance room got fucking fucked up too? But then we get the shot of what's her name? What's her character's name? Epps. Yeah. She jumps down into the pool and she starts to find bullet holes in the pool. And that's where I'm like, oh, this is like a cool D&D adventure where they're setting up like weird evidence of stuff that we weren't privy to in that opening cold open, which is smart because they could have shown us so much more if they wanted to, but they didn't. They gave us just one little tidbit. And then I'm like,
ask
what else?
Questions and then answer them.
Yeah, exactly.
It has a bit of that moment felt like Lost a little bit, where I was hoping that we get a good explanation. We kind of do, like when they do
everything they show is answered. It's all answered, because even by the end, I was like, I still have unanswered questions. But by the very end of the movie, I'm like, all the questions were answered.
You're like, what happened to Mudvayne? And then they show up again.
Exactly.
They show up and brum, brum, ding, brum, brum, ding.
They survived the execution of everyone because they were in the bathroom gelling their little spikes in their head.
They were actually dead before this, and they flew out as spirits at the end. And that's how we got Mudvayne. That's the origin story for Mudvayne.
Whoa.
What the hell just happened there?
I accidentally pulled the cord on my webcam.
Oh, well, new view of Alex Gow. No. Anyway, they make it to the bridge. The compass is dead. They talk about how the fuel tanks are probably dry. The boat probably just started going and the fuel just ran out. And Epps is visibly freaked out because she just saw a literal ghost. And they find a digital watch. So was that answered? Was that just to indicate that people had been on the boat after?
It was answered. They basically say it within that scene. That means we're not the first people who've been here. We're not the first ones to find it. And then they find those people later. They find them dead. A whole bunch of them.
Yes. Yeah. Those are the people that they're like, oh, they couldn't have been dead for more than a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they head back to the tugboat and debrief. And this is where we hear the explanation of what a ghost ship is. And if you've been watching this show for some time,
it's a ship with ghosts on it.
You know that now it's time for...
That's when they said the name of the movie in the movie.
We've had kind of a bad streak recently where I've been just trying to do this segment and just glomming on to whatever little tidbits I could. But that 2543, he literally says the words ghost ship. Finally.
It's an easier one to say.
It's true. It's offset by all those movies where the title is the name of a character who's in the movie that their name is said 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Or
so when we can't really be expected to have someone be like, "Oh, I'm having a nightmare on Elm Street."
Yeah, I can't believe it's happening
for
the third time.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah,
that remake of Nightmare on Elm Street though is so bad that I'm surprised they didn't go, "I'm having a nightmare on Elm Street."
So they realize they're dealing with a ghost ship, but little do they know how much of a ghost ship this is, because Epps has now seen a ghost twiise, right? She sees the ghost, she finds the pool later, right? She sees the ghost on the stairs when Eomer falls through the stone steps or the floor, and he's dangling above the ballroom, and she's just kind of like staring at them like, "What up, y'all?"
It was such a weird explanation to be like, it's like quicksand, because quicksand, as we know, you like slowly. As soon as they said it, I'm like, no, it's rusted out metal, so you're gonna fall to like you're gonna fall fast.
I think what he meant is like, because quicksand is more like a pool of like water, like that is muddy.
Right. Yes.
And you do fall through it up to like your tits, like within seconds of stepping on it. And that's exactly what happens to him. He falls to his tits. His legs are dangling.
But like the more you struggle with quicksand, that's like the point. Like the more you struggle, the faster you.
Yeah,
you
people
move.
don't really die in quicksand ever.
No, most quicksand you wouldn't die. The quicksand of cartoons does not exist, by the way.
I read somewhere that like nobody
has ever recorded being killed by quicksand.
Yeah.
What about the quicksand in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where they have to use a giant snake to get Indy out of it? It had to be snakes.
That's the classic that doesn't exist. Quicksand.
Yeah. But also, it had to be, the snake thing is so fucking. I like that movie. Okay, just want to say it. I'm going to say it here. Said it before, but that scene is by far the stupidest thing I've ever seen put to film. Where it's like throws up a giant boa constrictor. It had to be snakes.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was dumb.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was trying to remember what happens right after that. I think they just make fun of him and take him back to the boat, right?
Yeah, he jokes that he like shit his pants or something. And then
right.
they said, "Oh, you always smelled like that." Or
that's the joke. I couldn't remember what the joke was, but it was shit pants joke. Got
it. Dodge is like the blonde guy. I didn't really get what Carl Urban's name was, so I just wrote Carl Urban the whole time. But
his name's Munder.
Munder. Okay. Murph mentions that he's seen things you couldn't imagine, so he kind of believes that this might be a ghost ship, and they make a plan to basically fix her up and bring her back, because there's a hole in the hull and the anchors are up, so it should be okay. Credits, and that's the end of the movie.
I wrote, "Oh shit, the part of the boat with the hole in it is full of water." They seemed really surprised by that.
I'm like, wait a minute, how did this get in here?
It's like it's full of water, and it's like,
what
the
heck?
Like, what the? Yeah. This is your first time on a boat,
and they decide they're gonna
the concept of buoyancy and boatness.
They're gonna try and pump out all the water so that they can tow it easier, right? Like that's what their plan is.
Yeah.
And they don't want to call the Coast Guard because why don't they want to?
Because they think that they'll lose the salvage if they.
Right. They might show up and be like, "Italy owns this boat.
Yeah.
You can't have it." Okay.
And then they especially double down on that idea when they find the gold later, because they're well, this gold clearly.
I mean, even I would be like,
insured.
"Don't call the Coast Guard at that point." Are you telling me there's $200 million worth of gold in here?
Okay, so you ever watch a movie where you know something about the subject matter, and then the movie does not accurately portray that subject matter?
Tell us about why you're saying that right now.
So, not long after whatever we're talking about right now, they see some movement, and you're like, "Oh, it's a ghost or whatever," and then it was rats. And the rats were in a crate full of gold. Now, I'm going to fix my camera quick because it fell down.
I have a crate of gold and rats right here. Let me demonstrate.
So, they opened the crate of gold, and I paused it. I paused it right away. I'm like, I'm going to do some fun math for the show, right? There was 25 bricks in the first crate.
Mm-hmm.
They were like 1 kilogram bricks of gold.
Right.
And I know a lot about gold, and so I looked up what that would be worth now, and what that would be worth in 2002 when the movie came out.
Yeah.
And I did a bunch of math. I looked up the price of gold then, even like the month that the movie came out, to try to give it some benefit of the doubt. And then I'm like, okay, so I wrote down the numbers, and then I continued watching the movie, and then Murph said, that's got to be, what, 300, 400?
$200 to $300 million.
Yeah. So 25 kilograms of gold, which would have been one of those crates in 2002, was worth about $400,000. That would be about $3.6 million today.
Jeez.
Well, at the end of the movie, they
for one crate.
For one crate, but there was what, 6 crates maybe?
They show 5 crates get taken on.
There were 7 crates. There were 7 crates.
But would you like to know how much gold there would have to be for 300 to 400 million dollars worth of gold in 2002?
Yes, how many crates?
Well, you would need 68,000 pounds of gold, or 31,000 kilograms, which is the weight of a humpback whale. That's 6 or 7 African elephants, 60 polar bears in weight of gold. Gold is worth about 10 times now what it was in 2002. So it'd be about it would have been, if it was 300 million, then it's about $3 billion worth of gold in today's gold value. And I was like, this guy does not know what he's talking about.
No,
and even if you consider the provenance of, like, oh, it's from this boat, but the whole fucking thing, they're like, we can't tell anyone that we have this gold from this boat.
Yeah. And all the information about that gold has been filed away.
Yeah,
it's sketchy gold or whatever.
I absolutely had that moment where I was like, why would you make such an unrealistic number?
Yeah, if he said
like
this is
30 million.
If he's like, this is $20 million worth of gold, and they got to split it 6 ways, they'd be like, hell yeah.
And then that's funny, because at that amount of money, you don't look it up. I don't think you're like, that's fine, I'll accept that.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
$300 million.
And it's funny because I had already done my math before he said that. So I'm like, it's like $400,000 worth of gold in that crate. And then I'm like, what? I wonder if they're going to say how much it's worth. And he said 300 million. I was like, what the fuck?
Maybe, yeah. It'd be funny if one of the characters called him out. It's like, Murph, do you know anything about gold? Yeah, I have a gold watch.
Yeah, the pilot guy's like, that's not right. But he's like trying not to blow up his secret.
Santos knows everything about gold.
Oh, I didn't mean, sorry, I meant the air pilot.
Right.
Jack.
Yeah.
Well, we all know that he wants them to take it. He's just like holding back. He's like, well, these guys are actually stupider than I thought.
This is gonna be easier than I thought.
This is something else I wanted to mention. In haunted house movies and ghost possession movies similar to this, oftentimes the ghost will start to affect the people on the boat and slowly make them go insane. Is this the first crack in the armor? Him telling them that it's worth so much?
I think he's
is like the ghost.
I think they just wanted to say a big number and didn't do any.
It's so unrealistic.
Any research. It's such an unrealistic number. It's so much money.
Maybe there was a bunch of crates off screen we didn't see.
Yeah, but you would need
the whole bottom of the boat, like the size of a whale.
70
basically.
tons of gold. They can't physically move. They're like moving it with like a pump truck.
Listen, he added a couple zeros.
They had it on like a buffet table, and they were wheeling it out to the Arctic warrior dude, which would not support the weight of the gold.
He'll do anything for money.
Yeah. But anyway, that's just a case of me knowing maybe too much.
I thought you were going to say something about rats for some reason.
Oh no,
you're like, the crate with the rats.
I'll tell you about rats.
Rats can't exist next to gold. They're actually
if a rat touches gold, it dies instantly.
Yeah.
That's
rats
really
eating all this time. Ghost rats.
I'm just going to grab some water. I'll be right back.
Like ghost rats?
Ghost Rats, the sequel. That was actually the tentative title for the sequel of this film. We get a recap of Ep seeing the ghost girl again, which I always hate when they do that. Luckily, it's short, and she has a cigarette. She has a smoke with Jack out on the bow. She says that she saw something she couldn't possibly have seen, which was the girl. And she tells him she saw the little girl. He tries to reassure her by saying when he was flying as a pilot, he would see things that he was sure that he saw, but it was just because he was out there flying for so long, which is understandable. And this is all while they're like, well, we gotta. No, they're camping on the boat at this point. So on the tugboat, they haven't even gone to the ship to like live there yet. But the next day, they discover the hole in the hull. They think that the current is pushing the boat repeatedly into rocks nearby. There's like a circle mosh pit of. It's just been listening to Mudvayne all for 40 years, getting constantly pulled. Constantly pulled into these rocks, which also creates like a ticking clock for the film. And then because of the hole in the boat, it's like, why can't we just pull it out of here? It's like, well, have you ever tried to pull a Buick with 4 flat tires, which is a really good way to sort of present that you can't just pull a giant cruise ship with a tiny tugboat. There's even one point earlier in the movie where they're like, why don't we just call more tugboats? Actually, that might be literally right now. But they also are
like 4 more, and they're like, no, because then we have to split the gold with them.
They haven't even discovered the gold yet.
Oh right, yeah. We don't know what this ship is worth yet. It could be worth $70 billion for all we know.
$300 to $400 million each.
Yeah, they open. There's a bunch of rats, and they move it, and it's a bunch of like stock certificates for Microsoft.
Yeah. And then they back up and like a cabinet opens, more rats fall out, and it's full of Fabergé eggs, and the crab falls on the guy's head. Like, holy shit! Yeah,
a literal dragon's horde in the pool at the bottom. So they're gonna weld the hole closed, and they try to move the boat away from the rocks as best they can to get it home. And then we get the 3-day ticking clock because it's in 3 days it's gonna come back around and hit those rocks. They're gonna call it in, but Murph says that he doesn't want unexpected guests, like, regardless of who they are, whether it's like the people,
the implication was like pirates might show up or something.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was what the vibe I was getting.
Yeah. You make a call back to your people.
Yeah. Or even just some kind of legal situation where they're like, oh, sorry, you're out of luck. Thanks for finding us.
Yeah.
It's one of those threats that covered all the bases where like, it seems like anybody showing up is a bad night for them. And so they get all their gear up into the ship the next day, and they start exploring more, and this is when everybody gets their own individual ghostly encounter which this is the other thing that I'm like, this guy's no good, is that he shows up in the most sort of like convenient of moments, and everybody else gets their sort of like individualized moment of spooky situation, but he doesn't get one, right? We don't get a moment where he's by himself and something spooky happens, because he's the source of the spookiness, guys.
This is where I recognize that I'm still movie dumb. I'm TV smart. If this was in a TV show, I might be able to be like, man, that's fucking weird. But movies still captivate me. And no, I'm telling you. I know,
but you say it all the time. Like, what does that mean, though?
Movies still captivate me in a way where everything that's happening in a movie, for whatever reason, my brain chemistry doesn't allow me to.
I know. I'm just wondering what the TV equivalent of that is, because to me, it's the same fucking thing. Like, it's
the same, but like more like television is written way more obviously a lot of the time. Like, it's written in a way that like it's more consumable, and I find movies they save things for reveals a lot differently
at the end of the episode.
Yeah, because they can pay it off a lot quicker than TV shows. TV shows need you need every episode to have some pay.
Have something cool at the end to make you be like, oh shit, now we have to talk about this for a week and speculate.
Yeah. But with movies, I have this like, I'm such a lapsed fan of film that I watch so many movies that are so obvious to Steven, and then he makes it very clear to me that I should have noticed it. And that's
I don't say
I think that's a decision you make. That's a decision I make. I never try to figure out what's happening. I take things at face value.
That's a good point.
So that I try to experience the movie the way the movie is trying to make me experience it.
That
is my objective when I watch a movie.
And also, it's not my objective to try and figure it out. I'm just like, oh, this is obvious.
You're just too smart.
No. It's not that you should be figuring it out either. Like, the movie is trying to make you. It's trying to fake you out constantly throughout this movie. There's moments where it's like, oh, he shows up to save her and stuff. Like, the movie's trying to do it. But to me, it's obvious that the movie's trying to do that. So I'm like, I don't trust you even more, you snake-faced fuck. You're clearly the devil or whatever.
I think it's that television telegraphs differently, and I'm more attuned to that than film, which telegraphs.
Yeah, but I think Alex's point about it being able to take its time with reveals like that, where like maybe something won't be revealed for like 3 episodes rather than it having to be revealed or hinted at within a 30-minute time span, where my brain is just like identify all threats. This guy's the only one. He has to be the bad guy. And in a movie like this, there has to be a character that's going to do some sort of turn on them, whether it be somebody's doing it for the evil purposes of having the gold, or there's something more nefarious.
Or a Scooby-Doo moment. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
it was a genuine reveal, to like a genuine twist to me. Like I didn't see it coming.
To me too, and I'd seen the movie, but again,
but to the point.
Did you see it? Yeah, you saw the opening. We all did.
To the point that when he talks. He's like, I love you and I want to be with you, and then she's like, that's impossible, and then he turns back into Jack, and it turns out that like that scene with Dodge and Jack, like their roles were reversed in that segment, like with the shotgun bit, like all of that just like blew my mind. Like I was like, what the fuck? Like it actually twisted my brain a little bit. Where you're right, if this was a TV show, it would have been across multiple episodes.
And they wouldn't have had a moment where he goes and like looks at the fucking camera with a shotgun hole in his chest. Yeah, I'm like, okay, so he's not dead. Got it. That moment, I was like, I wasn't sure if it was him or not when he like comes down at the end and he's like, we can get out of here together or whatever. We just got to work together to leave together. I couldn't tell until he got a little bit too horny about it, and I'm like, oh, this is. But also bad plan on his part. He could have really played that a lot more smoothly. If he's so smart and he's been hanging out on the ocean, luring people to this fucking cruise ship for 40 years, you'd think he'd be good at it by now. Apparently not. No, or maybe like she's just too smart.
It seems like he hasn't really brought a lot of people to this boat.
Well, there's a whole other crew that we find. There could be tons of them. We also don't really get a full count of what.
Well, and he's only got 3 days before it crashes.
Actually, that's a good point, because when the souls are coming out, there's millions of souls. It looks like so many souls.
Let's not pretend like he. I mean, I don't know. We don't want to jump to the end, but
where are the bodies? Just in the walls of the ship.
But yeah, we get the everybody gets their own spooky moment, and it sets up the future spooky moments for everybody, right? Like we've already learned in the opening sequence that the captain Murphy doesn't drink for whatever reason. You can make your assumption as to why that is a million times over. A man like this of his age probably had some wild days when he was younger.
It makes his Irish accent come out more.
I've seen things in the Bering Strait that you'll never even believe. Kind of vibes, like an old weathered sea captain, man.
Or he just lost his entire family because he was a fucking terrible drunk. You know, like there's lots of reasons a person would stop drinking, but we do know that he doesn't drink, and he's very tempted by it, right? Like he sees the bottle, a fresh pour in the corner of the room, and he almost just like instinctively drinks it.
Do you know what's funny about that? I didn't pick up on the fact that he's like an ex-alcoholic person. I thought he was like, shouldn't be there. That's like ghost liquor, or liquor that's been here for a millennia. Not a millennia. It's been here for 40 years. I shouldn't drink that just because it's been sitting out.
I forgot that he didn't drink. The drinking had not a lot of significance.
Yeah, I mean, he picks it up and he's about to take a sip and he drops it because he sees the reflection of the captain in the mirror.
Right.
But that's I think the movie was supposed to be like he snaps into like, what the fuck am I doing? Because he literally says, what am I doing? And to me, that's like, I haven't had a sip of alcohol in 12 years or whatever, right?
So let me just set the scene, because this is a lot of back and forth, and I kind of wrote out like a play-by-play. The driver's making the engine ready to haul. He's kind of pissed about being bossed around. Epps finds the pool. Dodge and what's his name? Reuter? Munder. They head to the engine room. Murph and Jack are headed to the captain's or Murph and Greer headed to the captain's quarters. Seems like there was a shootout in the pool. We don't know why yet. Epps sees the girl again. She's like climbing up, falls back into the pool.
I kind of wish that like the mystery of what happened on the ship had more to do with the story itself, right? Like they have the elements there, and it's super intriguing to me, but they just kind of like drop it in your lap as a
they're like, here's what happened.
Yeah, and I do like. Yeah, I do like the montage at the end. I think it's pretty cool and well done, and I like that it's shot sort of like a weird music video. Like I liked all of it, but the most intriguing part of this movie to me is when she's like, you know, like she's like touching the bullet holes and like a bullet casing falls out and you realize the whole pool is full of bullet shells and you're like, what the fuck happened here? And like immediately my mind goes like a million different directions. I'm like, oh, so I thought the ship was evil. I guess it's not the ship. Maybe the ship is evil. And like I'm going through all these different scenarios as to what could have happened in the ship. And that kind of shit is the stuff that I love in a movie like this. But then they just, you know, they kind of go for the standard, a bunch of spooky things then just happen individually to everybody. It's sort of like everybody gets their own shining moment. And which is not bad either. I was just way more intrigued with the mystery as to what happened on the ship. And even the characters are speculating as to what happened. But, you know, it turns out that they were all right, I guess, in a weird way. Like all their speculations. Like they all end up in the montage at the end. You're like, okay, so
each individually correct.
Right. Yeah.
Greer and Murph are exploring some more. Murph ends up in the captain's quarters. He finds a bloody shaving blade and thinks that's interesting. Greer finds the elevator. Munder and Dodge find the engine room and it's flooded. This part stuck out to me. Epps, when she falls backwards, I couldn't tell if when she gets up the blood was from her head. I don't think it was, but this is when we see the blood go. There's blood like underneath her, and it gets sucked back into the hole. And then we also get a shot that's just for us, which is like the holes in the walls of the pool start bleeding.
The pool fills with blood, and we see a bunch of bodies. Like, oh!
I assumed her head kind of bled into the hole, and it was kind of like feeding it.
That's what I was thinking too.
That's what I thought as well. Yeah.
But like again, we then established that the ship isn't really evil. So like, why did that? You know, you're like, okay, it's cool. It's cool looking.
It's cool.
Yeah, exactly. And like, but then we also established that all the ghosts on the ship are also kind of evil, right? The ones that have been marked are evil, and like they work for this entity. And so they have a vested interest in making people die as well. So I guess that maybe you're right. Maybe they did it activated them. Pool ghosts activate. All it takes is a drop of blood. You know those like
the final girl's blood activates ghosts.
You put water into it like a sponge and it turns into like a dinosaur.
Or it's like the fifth element, you know? Yeah. Where they had the sweat on the stone.
Yeah. Or whatever. It opens up and a million ghosts come out.
We already mentioned Murph finding the liquor almost like he's possessed. We see the captain in the mirror briefly. Jack and Epps look at the pool. The blood pool fills with blood.
The blood pool fills with blood and goes.
This pool is now full of blood. What's the
water pool fills with the water?
But like, there's also the moment where you're like, is it? Did that actually happen, or is that just for us? You know, like because they don't seem to notice it.
Yeah, they don't go back, and then they never go.
They do though. The fight sequence.
They keep showing shots of it throughout the movie too. Yeah, just like a flash of it.
When Santos is chasing the captain around later, the pool they're running around the outside of the pool. It is not full of blood. It should have been. They should have fell.
That's what I mean. It wasn't like nobody like fell into it or something.
Yeah. So again, I think that's just the ghosts kind of like fucking around for themselves, entertaining themselves or whatever. And then we get Greer who is exploring the ballroom and he is missing his wife, and he sees a picture of the Italian singer from 40 years ago, and he comments on her physique in a very curvy way.
Nice titties.
Yeah, and frankly, the picture was not even that flattering. In the sense, I would say there was nothing in the photograph that he saw to provoke the statement he made.
I agree. I don't think it was particularly focused on her titties as Jason.
No, he's just a sick, twisted pervert. No. I feel like I'm a little here. You know what? I'm gonna do this because it's unprecedented. Where the fuck? How are these even? I know that I put them the way that they are. I think Greer is looking for any excuse to cheat, quite frankly. I think that he is a dirty boy on land.
So this is like his bachelor party on this boat, or what?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
But like worse than that, the fact that he immediately is like acting like such a gross person to a photo of a person that's been dead for 40 years, but then also immediately says that line that's like, if she's dead, it's not cheating, which is an insane
He
thing.
doesn't say that immediately. He says that like an hour later. But at this moment, what he does is he says, "But not nice enough to provoke a man to cheat on the future Mrs. Greer or whatever." Like he apologizes to the photo of his future wife for commenting on the tits of the fucking ghost. And then he leaves and she's just smoking in the other room, or is that later? I can't remember. But like,
she's smoking and watching him walk away.
Yeah. Which is,
when it shows her from behind and she's having to smoke,
which is like the first time that we get a ghost other than the little girl. We see like, oh, okay, there's more ghosts on this ghost ship other than the little girl.
There's also another important moment during this where Epps and Jack find the laundry room. They open a hatch, it fills the room with water, and so many bodies come out, and then the door locks behind them. And then it's Greer finds a lit cigarette. He says the nice titties line, and that's when we see her from.
The ghost montage. We can say it doesn't. There's not really any particular importance, I think, to like the series of events here. But yeah, it is important that they find another crew of people that have only been dead for a very short period of time. The bodies are barely bloated, kind of thing, from being waterlogged. Yeah, and I guess they assume that that's where the digital watch comes from. But I think that based on the amount of souls that pop out of the ship at the end, we got to assume that. More than just this crew has been lured to this ship over the last 40 years, right?
That's why it reminds me a little bit of Lost, because it's like I wanted to know more about the people that had found this ghost ship and their stories of. You can only assume that like they get onto it. Jack's with them probably and makes them all like go into that little door right there and see what's in there, and he closes it and fills it with water or something, like
gotcha.
Suckers.
You just got
Jack and Epps make it to the room with the car, which is like I think the back of the boat where like you can load things in. It's a 58 Jag X150, and he says that he's had dreams of the car since he was a kid. Maybe I should have known. Right there.
Yeah, he knows a car that's 40 years old, and he's been dreaming about it since he was a kid.
Yeah. People like old cars.
That's true. Yeah. But he was a little too excited, if you know what I mean. Also, we don't really understand what sort of era this guy is from, how long he's been doing this job. I guess there's indicators, but not particularly certain. But we'll get into that.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of fortune and fame. That's how old I think he is. I think he's the devil's right-hand man.
Well, no, he explains how he got the position later.
He's from the River Styx, I think.
He's listed as ferryman, which is okay. Got it. But he says that he was bound to this position because of all the sin that he did in life. So he is a human. He's not like an entity born of hell. He's like a human being who's been tasked with this job to avoid torture, I guess. So he was probably pretty evil in life.
It's still living.
Yeah.
Which is something I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting like a demon thing situation to kind of occur. Like a soul stealer was not on my
it wasn't like
bingo card.
I think it's a bog standard haunting.
Yeah.
I kind of like it though. I think it's fucking cool.
I think it's cool.
It brought me back into the D&D mindset where I'm like, oh, this guy's just doing his job that he's been tasked with to avoid.
Yeah, it's like a treasure honeypot.
Yeah. I mean, he had a good thing going. And it seemed like he
not past tense.
Yeah, it's true. He could do it again. And I mean, this is where they find the gold, right? The two guys, she's like, there's something moving in there. Yeah. How rats are still alive, I don't know. I don't know if rats could
survive
rats like forever, but maybe there's enough to survive on rat wise or
$700 billion.
A lot of penne or something on there.
Yeah. And the fresh corpses that he keeps bringing.
Yeah.
Corpses.
There was a little moment where the radio says Epps' name, which I think is like Marguerite or something like that, which I thought I'd point out. And after they go from the mailroom to the galley, which is, if you don't know, the kind of kitchen. I'm not saying you guys don't know. I'm saying for our listeners, if you don't know. And something freaky in the freezer. There's old meat hanging out there, and we see like a head move, but it turns out that it's just the boys trying to freak out Epps, because earlier in the film they like heard old-timey radio and talking over the radio.
They thought that she was trying to fuck with them, so they're like, let's fuck with her, but really it was the ghosts fucking with them.
Which is interesting, because as soon as they're like, you were fucking with us, so we fucked with you, they immediately just transition to the next thing. There's no resolution to them bringing up this whole thing, and I was like, is nobody gonna like?
Well, they get distracted by the gold.
Yeah.
I think they would forget about it pretty quickly if you found $300 million worth of gold bars. I know I sure would. That's a lot of cheddar, as the rats would say.
As the rats would say.
And we've already kind of gone through the gold scene, so we don't need to talk about it again. But they all agree that they're not going to contact anybody, and they're going to try and take the gold and leave the ship, because they realize the gold is worth more than the ship, and they don't really actually care about the ship, especially when they got all this gold. Yeah. And so they start to load it onto the boat, and so now it's pretty much like heavy into night at this point, and the majority of the crew is back on the Arctic Warrior, and they're slowly bringing the gold down. But I think just before the gold is even put on, they try to start the ship, and Santos. I like Santos because I like that he's like a weirdo who talks to the engine like it's a person.
Yeah, he's very. I feel like that's a pretty well established character archetype of like, come on, baby,
but he's like having like full conversations with
mechanics that talk to whatever they're working on is
it like spits
almost
oil
more
on.
common than mechanics that don't do it.
I know I haven't been able to do this for a while. I haven't been able to mention Final Fantasy on one of our shows in a while because it just hasn't come up. But all the Sids that are the airship pilots or captains or creators, I feel like Sid from Final Fantasy would be like this, down in the engine room talking to a photo of his deceased wife or something, being like, "Come on, baby, we gotta get it going."
The photo is.
I thought
we just see it from the back, don't we?
Yeah, I thought it was just like his wife and daughter. That's just
for some reason I thought it was like his father or something.
See,
the way he's talking to it seemed like he was arguing with his dad, like how he's not good enough or something. But like, I guess it could be anything really.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember them showing it. And I don't know, just the way he's so argumentative with it felt sort of like parental to child to me. But I don't know. I could be wrong. Could be his wife and daughter. But I don't remember what the photo is. If they even show it, do they? Does anyone remember?
I don't remember.
I don't think they do actually.
So we'll all have our own version of it in our mind. But I do know that the engine spits at him, and he goes, "Oh, it's gonna be like that, huh?" He smacks it with a wrench. Like, okay, I like this character. And just as I'm starting to like Santos, he gets blown the fuck up. And in a crazy man on fire moment that we don't really see in Hollywood movies anymore, he falls out of the boat like, "Rah!" He's running around with like a monster face on, and he falls into the water. And miraculously, no one else gets killed.
I wrote more like Santos.
Oh my god! Too soon. He just got blown up.
There's a scene in Deep Rising that's like exactly this scene, right?
Man, I don't even. That movie was so bad that my brain wasn't
because like the tugboat that pulls up to the cruise ship in that like keeps taking damage.
There's a cruise ship in that? I don't even remember
the ship that they go to.
I thought it was.
It is a cruise ship, wasn't it?
I thought they go to like an underwater facility. It's like an underwater research facility or a mining facility.
I thought it was a boat.
You guys talking about Deep Blue Sea?
No, that one also is an underwater facility. No, Deep Rising.
Because the whole point of Deep Rising is the boat comes out of the water mysteriously, right?
No, they go down to a mining facility and they're trapped down there, and they like drink old booze or whatever, and it infects them all with like a weird virus that turns them into like the thing monsters. Sounds way better when I describe it like that.
They board in a luxury ocean liner.
What?
I'm looking at the synopsis right now. Yeah, a group of heavily armed hijackers board a luxury ocean liner in the South Pacific Ocean to loot it, only to do battle with a series of large-sized tentacled man-eating sea creatures. That's the difference.
What movie am I thinking of then?
I think you get Deep Blue Sea.
Because that's
Deep Blue Sea is sharks.
That's sharks, but it's in an underwater facility. Is it Are you thinking of the Meg? Because that's an underwater facility.
Are you thinking of Resident Evil?
They drink old liquor, and then it starts to like transform them into like the thing monsters. I'm thinking, is it called
that
Mercury?
could happen that doesn't have to be in an underground lab. That could be.
Oh, maybe it could, but I just remember them mining underwater. They were like, it was kind of like almost like they're like mining with like explosives and stuff underwater. Maybe I'm like combining 4 movies together into one. I don't know.
Total Recall when Benny's trying to dig through the wall, maybe.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey, you ever been to Recall? Oh yeah, Recall, yeah,
Recall."
I heard my friend went there and he got lobotomized. What?
Deep Rising is that great like practical scene where they're going through the hallway and it's being crunched up.
Yeah,
and they like made it.
Jean Grey's in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I thought this singer woman was gonna have a similar like story arc where she's like a spy, which is what Femke Jensen
ghost. Yeah,
which is what Femke Jensen is in Deep Rising. I had a couple people message me today and be like, "Deep Rising's the better film," and I was like, "Well, go watch the Marvel's Bleeding Edge or the fuck podcast we went on."
What the heck happened to my camera?
Yeah, what's going on?
You're glitching out, dude.
Whoa! He's getting haunted by a ghost ship.
I think my camera's on the fritz.
I would say.
No, it's been acting funny the last couple of weeks. Keep going. I'm here.
Okay. Right. So the propane is turned on. They get blown up. And I was like, what the fuck is happening in this movie right now? Because how do so many people Santos is the only person that dies. Yeah. Epps, Jack, Munder, Dodge, Murph, they all survive.
A lot of stupid names in this movie. You notice that?
I think it was like a holdover from the 90s where everybody has to have like a real kind of like cool 1-syllable name, you know?
Yeah.
Once they figure their shit out, Dodge questions Jack about why this happened and is super pissed off. And that night they camp on the ghost ship.
Here's one thing that I made a note of, and they're mad at Jack, and they're like, "Did you find anything about this ship before you dragged us out here?" And I'm like, what about your captain who has like a history boner for this ship?
I'll be right back.
Every fucking thing about it. Like,
yeah.
And brought you out there. Does he hold no responsibility for like? He's like, "Oh yeah, this is the fucking whatever the fucking Gal Gadot or whatever," and like, I know every inch of this ship and all this shit. And then they're like mad at Jack, who's like, "Here's a grainy picture of a boat. You guys hunt boats, don't you?" You know?
Yeah,
what I mean?
and they all individually agreed to do it. It's not like they.
Yeah, and it doesn't. I don't know how they would blame Jack. Jack is just like, "Hey, you guys are a salvage crew. Do you want to salvage this ship that I saw?"
And he also says like, "There's 20 other people that would do it right now."
Yeah.
So either you're in or you're out. Yeah, and have. I mean, emotions are high. Their friend just died, but at the same time,
blame the other, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And then they move beyond that and start blaming each other. So start punching each other in the face. I can't imagine that people who would do this for a living are, even keel when it comes to mental stability. They're probably all.
Yeah, and they don't paint them as mentally stable in any light.
Yeah, they seem like crazy people. This guy's like, I'm going to put off my wedding for this.
Yeah.
All right.
They're like legal pirates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they characterize them as kind of like frontiersmen almost.
Yeah, or like swashbuckly, like treasure hunters, like Indiana Jones type people. Yeah. Except like only one of them knows anything about anything. And he knows a lot about lost ships, but he knows absolutely nothing about the value of gold.
Yeah.
Which you think he should know about.
Yeah,
he should know that much gold is not worth $300 million.
Listen,
That's
guys, we
like a
still don't know
Dr.
that he
Evil
didn't know
level
that. He was maybe just trying to make it sound more than it was, so they would.
Yeah, he
really
didn't want
to take the gold.
Really want to tug the boat.
He's
trying to get Greer home in time for his wedding. He's like, oh yeah, it's $1 billion worth of gold.
Yeah, maybe $2 billion. We don't know.
Yeah.
We can never know. No one will ever know until we get it back to mainland.
Oh man.
Murphy has a little bit of survivor's guilt about the whole thing, and they start to form a plan that they're going to fix the ship and drift through the islands like they had already kind of planned. Greer
now they have to fix the boat to be able to pilot it, because now they don't have their boat, right? So the plan is exactly the same.
The Arctic Monkey gets destroyed or whatever.
The Arctic Monkey. Yeah.
Great band.
The plan is the same, but now they have to be able to repair the rudder and stuff to be able to pilot it and like use the drift of the current to take them past the islands. They're not islands, they're just rocks, but whatever.
Greer has a bit of a freak out here too, where he's like, why don't we just build a raft and get the fuck out of here?
I mean, I'm with Greer.
Yeah. We've already clearly been haunted. Why did our fucking tugboat explode?
Yeah. They're all being like, maybe he was high again. Like they don't have like a good explanation either. They're like, all the valves were loose, which they were, but it was a ghost that did it. I don't know. I wish they would showed us the ghost that did it.
And it's important also that Greer was very insistent that they call someone else to come get them out.
Yeah, multiple times too. He's the last sort of dissenting voice during the gold conversation, where it's like they want to have a unanimous vote, and he, out of peer pressure, says yes, right? Like he still wants to call the Coast Guard, but at the same time, he's like, I could leave the ocean behind forever if I take this gold, so let's do it.
I thought it was like Jack did it, like he twisted on the propane, because when they're
does the ghost thing, it's just like me, like it's just spinning, but no one's touching it.
I thought it was him directly though, like using his whatever powers, because later when they're showing that,
I mean, it could have been.
Yeah, it's not explicit.
Yeah, but it also could have been one of the ghosts from the ship doing it. We don't know.
True.
We know they could do shit too.
True.
I have a lot of speculation about that end scene, but I think the speculation that I have is sort of like, in order for my brain to logically make sense of all of the events that happen piece to piece, I'm like, I have to make the logical leaps here in order for this to all totally make sense. But I'm satisfied with it.
Yeah, I accept that.
With most of this movie is like that, I think, where it's like if you don't think about it too much, or if you like slot in your own reasonable explanations for things, it's fine. Yeah, it's totally
like what was on that picture. We're both equally correct, because we don't know, but he would also have that reaction to talking to literally anything on a.
It's
on
just a
photo.
picture of a dog. This is his old dog.
It could be his dog. It could be,
or it's not even a dog that he owned. It's just a dog he cut out of like a Sears catalog. Yeah, he just really he had a connection with that photograph. It's the dog that he always wanted to have, and these are imagined.
He bought a frame to put a picture of his family in, and it had a stock image of a dog.
Dog in it. Yeah. Yep.
Two other things I was going to say during that were it's a furry of a dog, a person dressed in a fursuit, but also there's nothing in the frame. It's
he's just crazy. He's absolutely insane. Yeah.
He's just been snorting too much engine oil.
Yeah.
Engine juice.
The fumes down there have really gotten to Santos. Santos's brain is rotted with gasoline fumes and fucking mud vein.
He's got mud in his veins.
Greer punches Munder directly in the face. He didn't even want to go on this mission. Murphy's losing in the captain's chambers. Epps is trying to solve the mystery of the little girl. Dodge and Munder are going to eat the food in the galley. Greer's flicking his wounds.
Oh yeah, the food scene. Is Dodge like a redundant character in this movie? Because they had gone to Dodge and just given all his lines to Munder, and they'd have been fine.
I think they just wanted to have the Tweedledee Tweedledum back and forth.
Yeah, whenever he does anything, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's in this movie.
Yeah. And Carl Urban is such like a sort of a staple now of kind of current media that like he's so dastardly overshadowed by Carl Urban every single time.
Yeah.
They were like, shut up, Dodge. Let Carl talk. We like Carl. We don't like you.
Yeah.
Let's do a little side quest here. I'm looking at Dodge. Dodge was in Black Hawk Down, Sleepers.
Oh yeah, he's
everyone was in
Super 8, but I don't recognize him at all.
I don't recognize him.
I recognize him as that face from those things that I've seen. He's not one of those guys where I'm like, that's the guy from this. It's more like I've seen this guy in stuff, and that's sort of like his entirety of his. Yeah, like Deep Impact. I've seen probably like maybe 8 times in my life, and I don't remember his character. But if I watch it, I'll be like, oh yeah.
But he had one of those faces where I was like, I know this guy. Like he would look familiar, and he just kind of looks like a bunch of other actors.
Tim Roth. Yeah, he looks like
Tim Roth was one that I was thinking of as well. But I'm like, obviously this isn't Tim Roth. Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen anything that he's in, other than Black Hawk Down. But Black Hawk Down, he could have been. There's so many people in that.
There's a lot of people in that. Yeah.
Every actor ever.
This fucking random dude once.
Yeah. Ridley Scott just put out a casting call for like, give me everybody between the ages of this and this.
Yeah, every male actor, please.
Who could be a soldier and be in a crashed helicopter. They eat beans. They're fine. Epps experiences some ghost shit. She has that sequence where the doors all close and then she's like kind of corralled into the kids' room. Oops, the ghost made them eat maggots. So this is another sequence where it's cutting around to them all having their ghost.
Yeah, we can just talk about them individually a little bit. We don't need to sprint through them.
Say too about this. I fully believed, because the last time that this happened, they kind of did sprint through it, and there was only a couple little back and forths. But this whole sequence, I thought it was just going to be like, and now it's the next day, and I don't know why I was.
They're in a haunted house. You can't stay the night in a haunted house without getting spooked.
This whole next 20 minutes, maybe a half hour, is full on haunted house.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert for my Home Alone of it all, but this is it. Like, this is the movie's happening now.
This is the other moment that I was like, oh, I think I remember what happens here. And this is also just like me knowing spooky movies the way I do. Even if I didn't have a vague memory of it, I probably would have just made the assumption anyway. When they spoon the beans in their mouth, I'm like, they're going to be eating this, and then it's going to turn out they're eating something disgusting. It's going to be like rotted and it was exactly
when they're like, these beans are so good, they're so delicious. It's like,
I can't believe they're still good after all this time.
Another Jurassic Park kind of moment when the Jello, like, but the moment that I remembered was Carl Urban's mouth just full of mealworms or whatever, and he was like, which, again, like any spooky movie where you're eating questionable old food, something, and there's ghosts all over the place.
Yeah,
you're gonna get some maggoty old bread to bring it back.
I was just saying, there's that element of it. There's Epps kind of going on the mystery of the little girl, and then there's also Greer going to like.
There's also
to his death. We get a full on Hauntsville, but again. Who do we not see? See?
Ferryman.
Jack. He's mysteriously absent from all of these horrifying events. And if the movie really wanted to give you that sort of like face turn or like heel turn, or shake all suspicion whatsoever, it would have like shown him wandering around looking for them or something, and like made it seem like he was like, Abs, where are you?
Maybe with one of them when they were having their ghost moment, and he could pretend to be scared.
Exactly, but I think these again are just supposed to. I mean, Greer.
They didn't need that to trick me, though.
Yeah, they did it successfully. I like the captain's one because then the captain, we see him speak to the ghost captain, and they get fucking loaded together or whatever. And then he reveals the horrifying history of the cruise ship, and it found another ship that was sinking, and everybody died on that ship because he had heard of that ship as well. And I guess it was reported sunk or whatever. He's like, yeah, that one was sunk.
The Lorelei.
And there was no survivors. And then the captain's like, oh, but the one.
Steve was instantly like, That's Jack.
Yep.
Me and Jason were
I
like,
absolutely
"Ooh,
was. As soon as he showed him a photograph and he went, I'm like, of course. Like, is it going to be one of the people?
Yeah,
that he's known
that's
for
where
10
we
years?
should include it, because it's like if they don't show a picture, it's the universal truth of movies. If they show something and you're not allowed to see it, that means that you would recognize it. Same with anyone in a mask. The only reason they're wearing a mask is if they didn't wear a mask, you would know who they were.
Yes.
True.
And
I have a question though, because
captain, though, when he goes, like, that's the other tell is like, is it going to be one of the fucking 5 people he's been working with for his last 10 years, or is it going to be the guy who's been here for a couple of days? It's probably going to be the guy that's been a couple of days.
During the sequence of Murph talking to the captain, and they're talking about the Lorelei ship, I took it as the implication is that the gold came from that ship originally and made it onto
literal
this
photograph
ship?
of them loading the gold from that ship.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I interpreted the physical evidence of that happening as a.
Thank you for making me feel stupid, but I'm going by my notes.
If you watch the movie, you can see it. It's right there.
Yeah.
I only look at like 3 photographs.
It wasn't a question.
And one of them you don't
notes.
see.
I wrote definitively the gold is from the Lorelei.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to just right now verify with you guys because I was questioning.
Yeah, I think that's his magical thing that he uses to get people's attention, right? To get people to trust him or to do what they want. Not only is he like influencing them, I guess because he's handsome and charming or whatever, but he's also like, there's fucking $100 billion worth of gold in these trunks.
Before we move out of those 2 stories, so we have Epps fighting like the hung girl. We find out later she didn't hang herself, which when I saw that I was like, oh, she hung herself because everybody was dying around her,
or
something.
Everyone was dead and she was by herself.
Dead,
yeah. But we find out that it's actually much more sinister. But the whole thing with Greer is so fucking weird that we get this whole sequence. This is all going back and forth, but we get this whole sequence of him like, she kisses him. He says he can't cheat with the dead girl, which we talked about, and he kind of kisses her back, and then he's just like, "Look, I'm just gonna go with it. I know you're a ghost, but I'm just gonna go with it."
But I'm really horny.
Weirdest lines.
I saw Santos
not
get
cheating
burned
if
to
she's
death.
a ghost.
Yeah.
I also drank an entire bottle of champagne. I am good to go with a ghost. I think this whole sequence is just there for 2 reasons. One, to have a really cool...
Yeah, 2 reasons.
Yeah, 2 big reasons.
2 delightful reasons.
2 reasons being, one, to have that really cool and interesting visual effect of the room reconstituting itself, and like I really also like the audio design of this because it sounds like wood snapping back together, but then you realize it's the sound of backwards clapping, and then like it. It's super cool. And visually it looks awesome as well, except for Greer looks really out of place, and it's quite obvious he's on like a blue screen or something. But nonetheless, looks great. And then the other thing was to just get tits in the movie. That was the second thing. Yeah,
that's exactly how I felt when I was watching it. I was like, oh, it's a horror movie, so you have to have like a little bit of a scintillating, like, nudity in an R-rated horror film.
Yeah, it's a movie made for like teenage audiences. It's supposed to be sort of like you've got to have the moment of gratuitous nudity in the horror movie because that's the rule of horror filmmaking. And in any other scenario would be like Epps getting with somebody, and Epps doesn't seem like the character. It would be completely out of her character unless she was ghost hypnotized or some shit. I don't want.
But she's kind of like a Ripley. Like I said earlier, like she's kind of like the action woman.
Yeah, she's 100% styled off of Ripley, as is like most like female protagonists in these types of horror movies, where they're on sort of like a gruff, what would be considered like a manly.
She's like
job,
a Vasquez.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Like from Aliens, like she is kind of Vasquez-y.
She has the vibe as well. You throw a fucking bandana on there.
Available Michelle Rodriguez.
Right.
And he fully is like, I'm gonna bang this ghost, and as he goes to kiss her,
consideration at all.
Yeah. I think his wiener's out during this too, which makes it even more crazy. But
and then a snake bites it, which is the other connection to this.
That's the other connection.
On a plane, yeah.
But he fully falls into that elevator shaft that he looked down earlier in the movie, which is another, like, the foreshadowing sometimes was a little...
I was trying to think of how drunk I would have to be for someone to convincingly lead me to my death in an elevator shaft, you know?
Well, if it was a succubus, probably.
Well, you would maybe don't think you're going to... If I was standing in front of an elevator shaft, you would think I could probably go up against this person. I'm not going to fall through them.
Right, yeah. I would probably be like, hey, get away from that. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's pretty dangerous over there.
I'm drunk and possessed right now, but we have to get away from this elevator shaft.
Yeah.
Full stop. Also,
we
can
see
you
him later
go down on me, ghost?
What? Did you say, can you go down on a ghost?
Can you go down on me, ghost?
Okay.
Ghost.
I see. First floor, menswear. And then he falls down the elevator shaft, and later we see him impaled by a bunch of rebarb or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is so haggard. The other thing about Epps' story during this is when she's talking to the ghost girl, we find out that, like, there's she gets the locket off the hanged corpse and shows it to the girl opened, and it's her parents. And it turns out that the little girl explains that she was on this ship to go, I guess, back to America from Europe or from Italy.
He was basically doing exactly what Jack Dawson was doing in Titanic.
Yeah, her parents moved to New York, and she's from Britain or whatever, and she was taking this cruise ship there.
Yeah, they needed to explain why there was someone on the ship. One of the ghosts could speak English.
There's kind of a lot of heavy-handed allusions to Titanic in this. That bit, the ghost's name being Jack, at the end when Epps is like saves herself by floating away. I know it's not a door.
When Greer's falling down the elevator shaft and he goes, "I'm the king of the world."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Katie tells Epps that they're all trapped there, and someone or something is trying to fill a soul quota. And this is the first time that I'm like, somebody here is a demon.
This was the moment that I was like, oh, it's a demon. It's not like a ghost. He's not from the... I'm like, okay. So I'm like, he's from hell. Interesting. So what does that mean? He's collecting souls. And then she says something about being marked. And I'm like, okay, interesting. And then we do later see the mark, which is like, it looks like a fishing hook or something. Like, I don't really know what it was meant to be.
It burns it into to the hand as well, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, and he knows that she's revealing information because then the room turns even more rotted than it already is. I'm like, whoa, double rot on rot. And then she gets like zapped out of existence. But you know, it's sort of like a needed scene because we need a little bit of exposition to sort of like figure out what's going on. But it's nice.
Dum-dums like me and Jason.
And also it's like it's kind of nice to get a little bit more of like who this character is. I do think it would have been funny though if like she just spoke Italian and she had to like really it was like a real struggle, like a struggle for them to communicate, and she was like trying to figure it out.
There was a moment with Greer and the woman where
I guarantee you there's a version of the script of this movie where it's like she's just speaking to an Italian ghost and she has no idea what the fuck she's saying.
Yeah.
There was a moment when they first like the woman in the red dress speaks Italian to Greer, and I thought that he was speaking Italian back to her because I like looked away for a second and I looked back and I was like, wait, that, and I rewound it. But he can like understand her, or he isn't understanding. But
I think he doesn't care what she's saying.
Yeah,
exactly.
They're speaking the language of love, Jason. It's a universal language that no one actually has a dictionary for.
He's got a boner. She's a.
I'm going to make you fall down an elevator shaft, and he's
impeccable
like, "It's not cheating if it's a ghost."
Yeah, I'm going to go with this. But the captain does speak Italian to Murphy. But it's clear that they're almost doing sort of just like
they're just both talking alone to each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's Murphy, and then there's like Captain Alfredo Penne or whatever his name is.
Yeah, it's captain to captain. They don't have to really speak a lot. They know what's going on.
Yeah,
but when he speaks ships,
when he speaks to the ghost in English, the ghost knows what he's saying. So. I don't know. Maybe ghosts. Once you become a ghost, you just understand all languages, but you can't.
Or if you drink enough, you can understand Italian.
Theories.
My theory is if you drink enough, you can understand Italian.
Murphy calls
My
for
theory is that if you drink enough, a ghost can convince you to jump to your death inside of an elevator shaft.
That sounded haunted that time. There was an extra gent. Murphy calls for Epps and sees Santos' ghost. I wrote, Greer's really going to bang this ghost, and he falls down the shaft. Murphy sees Epps as Santos' ghost, and they tussle.
That was cool.
Jack knocks him out, luckily, and they put him in an aquarium to keep him from freaking out more.
Yeah, definitely won't bite them in the ass in like 5 minutes.
Definitely won't fill the aquarium up with water.
I did like this though, that he's fighting Santos, because it then shows us that like this soul collection happens almost immediately, right?
Yeah, Santos is already like in for the game, dude.
He's been marked. It's really quick. He's like, listen, I was crazy in life. I'm crazier in death. I'm gonna come at you with everything I got. But then she's turned into Santos, which is also cool. Which in the Man of Medan game, like there's like literally a moment like this in the game, which is like quite intense and cool. A little more frightening in a video game than in a movie from 2002, but still good. I like that she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Come on."
Yeah.
They show every bit of dialogue and how it comes out. I like that kind of stuff.
That sequence was really good.
It was pretty tense too. Like I was genuinely concerned for both of them,
especially when you don't remember what happens.
Yeah, and like because you're like, well, the disposable character in this situation is Murphy. So I was like, oh no, Murphy, he's just confused. Don't kill him. He doesn't know what he's doing. So I was genuinely concerned for both of them. And then this is the other part in the movie where they try to make you think that that Jack's not bad, which is he knocks him out. But look at that evil fucking pointy face. He's got a pointy face, guys. He's evil. He's from hell.
He's got a pointy face.
Yeah,
I'll agree with that.
And then they have another conversation, and that is, we need to wait out the night because we can't fix the ship until morning. And he's like, all right, I'll weld everything. I'll go into weld mode. And so they wait till sunrise to do it. But I guess they wait out. No more spooky stuff happens for the rest of the night, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. We literally get a montage of them fixing the boat for a couple of minutes, which I was like, this is a strange moment.
That the ghosts aren't trying to fuck with them that entire time. They're like, no, let him fix it. But that's, we later learned that that's exactly what he wanted, right? Jack wanted them to fix the boat to make it sea-bound again. So I guess he could sail it to hell or whatever. Like, I don't know how it works.
They also do a reckless C4 the door open to get to where the break in the boat is, which I thought was funny. And they fix the rudder, they start to pump the water out, and now that 3-day ticking timer is now a 12-hour ticking timer. That's how long it's going to take to get the water out. And they're literally, I actually made a note here that was like, they're literally haunted and they still decide to do this.
Yeah. And
there's that scene where they look out and the rocks are just like right over there now. So like, it's like a perfect storm. Exactly. Yeah.
But and they fix the rudders, and then also somehow the compass is working now. I swear they say at the beginning the compass is broken. The compass is fucking broken, but then it's working now. So I don't know. Also, how does a compass break?
And, I don't know. How is that? That's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
a Mercury fell out of it, but also like every time there's ever a haunting, the fucking compass spins uncontrollably. So I'm surprised they didn't
the first
put
thing they said when they get on the ship, they tap and they're like,
compass
is haunted. Haunted compass.
Have a scene of Munder fixing the grandfather clock.
Yeah, this is a ghost compass.
They did haunted clock instead of spinning compass.
Yeah.
It's because they needed the compass later. They didn't need the clock.
Yeah,
the clock was just like haunted clock.
This is Epps goes to find Greer as the sun comes up. This is when she finds Katie near Greer, and he's impaled from the falls. You mentioned, Steve, on the rebar. And then the drain thing is clogged, and they have to go down into the water. Epps is shown what happened the night of all the deaths. So this is that sequence of basically we find everything out about
the music video.
Yeah.
And this is where I was kind of like, I liked it, but I was disappointed because I was kind of super into the mystery of what happened on the boat. But I also realized there was only like 15 to 20 minutes left in the movie. I'm like, oh, we're not going to get any more cool mysteries. All right.
But it was cool because like we see them all get bisected. We get to see that scene over again, but we also get the context of things happening around it. The soup that they show at the beginning of the movie that was being doled out to the people was poisoned. I think even when I was watching this moment, I realized at the beginning of the movie, I think you see somebody like eat the soup and then cough, but they don't really dwell on it too long to be like they're poisoned. I think they just like show somebody like being affected by eating. But it seems like there's this, they seem like Nazis almost,
No,
Italy.
They're not. This is what happened. Or this is my reasonable explanation as to what happened. He goes on the ship because he's the sole survivor. He gets on the ship. He convinces the woman that he's got gold on the ship and that he and her can split the gold. They just need to get the gold off the ship. But you need to convince this guy to convince his guys to be able to kill all these people. That guy convinces those people to convince the staff to kill all of the guests. And they convince the chefs to kill all of the guests by poisoning them and by shooting them in the pool. We're going to split the gold with you. And then you can see sort of like a hierarchy of people betraying each other.
The Dark Knight dominoes start
exactly falling. And then it gets to the point where they go to the gold room, and then that one guy machine guns everybody in the gold room, and he turns around to kiss the woman and she fucking shoots him in the head. And then our devil friend shows up and
then Jack
kills her in the most elaborate way you've ever seen. It's like, you have to stand on this X at this moment, and the hook is going to go right in your face.
Did you guys find that the effect for her face being hooked was like pretty good, like from a horror standpoint?
It was pretty gruesome.
I thought it was pretty gruesome and cool. It would have freaked me out if I would have watched this at 17. It might have stuck with me the same way that the being bisected by that wire stuck with people. Today watching it, I was like, that's messed up. Like that's hardcore.
Yeah.
But then
there was the cool shot when she shot him in the head and then it showed her through his head. That was
yeah.
I really like that too. Because it's like a soft focus, like out of focus, and like it moves away and she's standing there. Yeah, that was some good cinematography. That entire sequence was filmed really well. And that's sort of like
it was very like quick pan, like it felt like almost like Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
Like, and they cut it to the music and everything. That's why it felt like a music video.
Or it actually kind of reminded me almost of what's his name? I should have remembered his name before I started this sentence. Oh God, who did Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels? Guy Ritchie. It felt like Guy Ritchie.
Yeah,
that sequence felt Guy Ritchie-ish, where it's like a lot of like quick movement, and then boom, something cool happens, and then blah 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 blah.
It's super stylized compared to the rest of the movie, just like that sequence in itself, because there's nothing else like that in the movie. Maybe and even the opening sequence is shot completely differently than the rest of the movie, right?
Yeah. I like that it cuts to Epps, and the little girl's name is Katie, I believe. It keeps cutting to their reactions to everything too, which I really thought was good, because what's happening in reality, I feel like, is Epps is getting like a brain meld, like a mind meld of all this happening. So she's literally seeing it all in real time, but in like a few seconds, like it's being downloaded to her brain.
Oh, that's who that is. The girl is from Sucker Punch. I was like, that little girl looked familiar to me, but what is she from? Sucker Punch is the movie that I know her.
Oh, who's she in Sucker Punch?
She's the main girl in Sucker Punch.
Jennifer Sucker Punch.
Yeah. Baby Doll is her name. I don't know how else.
Oh, it's Baby Doll from Sucker Punch. Emily Browning.
Anyway, I didn't mean to derail what you were saying. I was just trying to remember what I know her from. And
no, I was done. You came in at the exact right time. Yeah. The next note that I wrote was, he's been doing all the wacky ghost shit on the ship. He's the one Katie was talking about. and Murphy's now drowned. Also, did you guys think the showing them taking Katie into like the room to hang her? Did you feel like it was more sinister than the music changes in this weird way that I was like, ugh, in a gross way? We don't have to get into
I chose to not believe that.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on.
They hanged her. That's all.
They hanged her, and that was it.
I wrote, I guess from the perspective of Epps, I wrote, I found Greer. He fell dick first down the elevator shaft.
Into some bullets. Yeah. It would
Which
be
is
funny
how
if he
you
landed
die
on a
normally.
mannequin.
Yeah.
Fully inserted into the mannequin. Yeah.
He died doing what he loved. Fucking
Falling
a
down.
mannequin?
Yeah,
Oh,
fucking
why
mannequin.
did the singer turn into an old lady when she turned
I don't know.
ghostly? She
I think
died
that was
at that
yeah.
age.
That was the movie being like, remember The Shining? Isn't it scary when a young, beautiful woman turns into a horrifying old corpse woman?
But she never became an old woman.
No, I know. It makes no sense. I'm saying the movie doesn't give a
I
shit.
know.
I saw it as more of a horrifying hag, like ghost.
But why
That's
didn't
what
they
I'm
just
saying.
make her like a young, horrifying hag?
Yeah.
It
True.
was weird.
Then they show her for like a split second too.
Yeah.
She goes,
No, it's
"Meow,"
I
like,
I
just a
honestly, because
spook, like a
that
scary-
whole sequence is very Shining-esque, right? Like it's very much like influenced by it. So I'm like, that's the only reason I can see them doing that is they're like, that's terrifying. You know what's scarier than a ghost? An old ghost.
Yeah.
Trying to kiss you. Disgusting.
Well, Epps has final girl energy as the boys go into the water to fix the clog. Epps tells Dodge the situation. Jack comes in and she stalls. At that moment, they're still trying to figure out the clog in the pump, and Mutter goes into the water and he gets sucked into like some sort of gear situation.
Yeah, he has such a bad
They do that
death.
really quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just like,
Yeah.
they show him underwater for like maybe like 0.6 of a second, and then he just gets sucked into a gear, and then he's dead.
Yeah.
But they show his like hand fall down.
Listen,
and
guys,
then,
the movie didn't realize how famous Carl Urban would be eventually. You know, like.
But I also thought it was insane that like they just show like a severed hand fall, and the next time we see him, they just show a shot of like just this mangled body, like just
And they show a face that doesn't quite look
look anything like him.
Listen, you go through a bunch of gears and tell me your face is going to look the same.
Yeah.
But why go through the effort to show his fully formed face?
I think the
completely
movie was like, we have to make sure that everybody is 100% certain that this guy is dead.
Yeah.
Because there's probably
because he had
people
a
who are
mask
like,
on when he died.
Yeah.
right. It's just viscera on the bottom of the.
Well, because they showed just the arm, and you know, it works in Jaws. You can show just the limb, and the person, we know the person's dead. But in this movie, so much weird shit is happening. If you see just a hand, you're expecting Carl Urban to come out at the end like with a knife or something.
Yeah, that's why
Harpoon
Jurassic Park always made me so confused. I thought Samuel L. Jackson was going to come back with one arm.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg was going by his own rule book, saying if a limb is there, they're dead.
Yeah,
I thought the lawyer was going to come back as a bottom half.
That was my nickname in high school.
Heyo, bottom half.
Bottom half.
I also laughed out loud at the water in the tube like starts to go again, but then goes red.
Yeah.
Obviously blood, but it looked like Kool-Aid to me. Like it looked like red Kool-Aid. I was like, you could have put a little bit more of the red in there to make it.
That reminded me of Jurassic Park 2 with the waterfall.
Yeah,
Turns red.
Where the little dinosaurs eat the
No, and when they hide it behind the waterfall, and then the guy gets crunched or whatever, the T-Rex grabs him and crunches him, and then the waterfall turns red.
Oh yeah.
And then scared that the T-Rex is going to come through, and it's just
it's
Malcolm runs through. And...
It's like, didn't you see the T-Rex out there?
Yeah.
He's too busy chomping that guy.
Yeah.
So Dodge and Jack get into a fight. Dodge blasts Jack with a shotgun. Dodge tells Epps about the situation. Epps is going to sink the boat, but Dodge tries to tell her the money could help, and they could be together. And then a timer starts. And
Well,
Dodge
I
has
think there's a lot of context here that is being left out of this stuff you're saying.
I'll turn it over to you for that then.
She tells them to stay in the cockpit, right, while she goes and checks on Munder and the pump and everything. But Jack is like, I got to go check on what's going on, and then he refuses to let him go, and then he drops the mask, and like the full ferryman comes out, and we finally get to see who he actually is, right? Because in the flashback you just see his face for like a sort of partial second, but now we get to see that he's kind of like this pure evil, and he's been throughout the entire movie observing these people and getting into their heads and learning their fears and their weaknesses and using them against them. You know, he's using infidelity against the man who's supposed to get married. He's using alcoholism and being a poor leader for the captain, and he's using all these things to kind of wring them out emotionally, I guess, like to make their souls more malleable or whatever. And with this guy, I guess he's been noticing that he's in love with Epps, and so he's going to use that against him by doing what? What do you do to a toxic male, a toxic beta male? You call him a beta male, and you basically emasculate him by calling him a pussy or whatever, and it really pisses him off. And he ends up shotgunning him in the chest at point blank range, and we get a classic early 2000 shotgun to the chest, which of course sends you flying across the entire room, as guns do, right, in real life. And then we get the other kind of moment where I'm like, okay, the next time we see this guy, he's probably not gonna be him, because like he's lying there and his eyes are open, and the eyes just kind of like look at the camera. You're like, uh-oh, spooky ghost is still alive. And then this is the moment that I was like not too certain what was going to happen, because I'm like, he's acting the same, like he's doing a good job of acting like this guy. But I did like that she kind of cracks the code on like, why didn't you ask where Munder is?
Munder,
yeah, where is he? And then that's when he kind of like he drops the mask again. But then I'm also like, wait, he can turn into anybody? Like, why is he allowing himself to be photographed and then walking around with the same face if he can just turn into whoever he wants? I assume he's got like a mana bar, like in a video game, like a stamina bar that runs out, and then he's got to like recharge before he can make his face different again or whatever.
What was that Sega Genesis game? The Poltergeist Sega Genesis game where you play as a poltergeist and you like manipulate the host to scare the people in the house. You kind of have a mana bar in that game, and when you said that, that's what I thought of. Like, if
he's got a spookometer, you can refill your spookometer by spooking people successfully.
If you do too many scares too fast, you go into like the underworld and have to fight your way back out.
Yeah, it adds.
So maybe when we don't see him during those scenes, he's used up his bar and he goes back to hell. He's
probably like, I really got to get rid of that picture of me.
Yeah, I need to burn it. Fuck, I didn't realize that Italian ghost keeps hiding it from me.
Penne Alfredo keeps handing it out.
Captain Penne Alfredo, Capitano Penne Alfredo,
fucking Tetrazzini over here.
Yeah.
Ooh, what's the fucking coming to go?
This is my first made linguine tortellini, and like
this is a ghost ship.
But also, like, he's the only other ghost that helps, right? Like all the other ghosts are trying to fucking murder them, but
maybe
Captain Ghost. Maybe he wasn't marked. Maybe he had no sin. That was the thing. Is like if you have a sinless soul, you can't be marked and you're difficult to manipulate.
My exact note for this was Dodge freaks out. Oh shit, Jack is Dodge. Was Jack Dodge? Weird way to do that, I guess.
What?
Very coherent.
Yeah, I don't know what that
Those were just that was my as it happens. It turns out Jack collects souls and is also a salvager in his own right. He's from hell for sure. That's my own interjection. He knocks her out and she drops the trigger. So while this is all happening,
well, he knocks her off the balcony and she drops it, and then she grabs the harpoon and they have the back and forth, and he's like trying to make a deal with her. He's like, I'll let you live if you let me have all these souls on the ship, which is I assume this is the same kind of deal that he got, right? Like in hell, like you will stay here and be tortured for all eternity, or you go back up to Earth.
Well, he seems very practical about it.
Yeah. It's a job.
That he's like, hey, listen, like, yeah, you can go. He's like, if I lose all the souls, then I got to start over. So it's like better if I just let you go.
And you let me sail this ship to hell.
Yeah.
I'm
I
wondering.
got 40 souls and I
she-
got
she
40
grabs the
holes.
harpoon gun and she's like, "You ate my bird, dude," and just
Yeah.
lets her rip, dude.
She does a perfect ding shot, like video game. It would make one of those satisfying ding noises onto the trigger of the bomb, blows it up, and he gets like obliterated.
Styles.
Yeah, he gets absolutely obliterated.
You see parts of him go flying and stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, I assume he can reconstitute. His spookometer was low, so it takes him a couple of hours to piece himself back together. But yeah, I mean, she escapes. The ship sinks, and we see 10 billion souls pop out.
Pretty epic.
It's pretty good looking. Like
40 years with the souls.
Yeah, and the amount that's there, it looks like he was probably doing a pretty decent job of collecting souls.
Well, they might not all be from that ship too. It could be people left over from the
ship before.
What's the other one?
Yeah, that was the other thing. I'm like, I guess he like transferred the souls from that ship over somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe the gold has all the souls in it.
Yeah, or something like that.
I mean, like, yeah, like, and then she gets rescued by a cruise ship. Is it a cruise ship or like just a regular?
It's
like,
another cruise ship. Yeah.
Okay. And then she's put into an ambulance, and then she sees, as she's about to get wheeled away, she sees the gold being loaded onto the cruise ship she was just rescued by, and then it's being followed by
the like the literal guys that were on the 1960s cruise ship, and then Jack with his modern day clothing on too, which I thought was an interesting way to show that.
Were they? I thought that I don't know. I've never been on.
They were wearing that like olive green, like.
I knew it was similar to what they were wearing, but I thought maybe
I just thought it was
like
kind of a nod to it. I don't think it was the same guy.
I thought it was just supposed to be like fancy cruise ship clothing.
Yeah. But then Jack's there, and then that's when you realize they're like, oh, he jumped from the Lorelei to the Graza, and now he's going from the Graza to this Royal Caribbean, whatever
Carnival cruises.
Yeah.
They're just wasted people on that ship. Like, why do we got to save this person? Why is she floating?
Yeah, he's just kicking back while they die on their own.
Yeah. It took place in 2021. It was a COVID cruise ship.
Yeah. Well, that's the film. That's the movie. We got through it. I've got a fun fact for you guys. According to manapop.com, via Wikipedia, the production filmed exterior scenes aboard the tugboat Arctic Warrior, where 800 to 1,000 sharks circled within 50 yards of the cast and crew.
Cool.
Wow.
So
I did question that at one point, because I was like, it's called the Arctic Warrior, and I was like, I wonder if that was like part of the script and they like had to write this on the back of this boat that they're using, or if they just found a boat and they're like, we'll just call it that for the movie if that's okay with you, Captain Graybeard, or whatever the fuck your name is. I
was wondering. I thought about it after. I'm like, oh, there were no sharks in this movie. I feel like they could have definitely thrown a shark or two into this.
Yeah, one
just
in like the
one
lower
shark
area.
Sequence.
Like one person falls over. Like Greer could have fallen off the boat and gotten eaten by a shark.
Or one could have been in the pump area. If there's a big hole in it, it's just in there. I was gonna say, imagine the shark comes around a corner and has a big like shotgun blast in its face. It's a ghost shark, and he gets killed.
Murphy's fighting a shark, and he's fighting, and he thinks it's someone else.
Yeah, it's like,
or it's a zombie
it's a
shark
like fighting him like in the pool. He falls in the pool and has to fight a shark in the pool.
Yeah. Blood shark.
My biggest nightmare as a child was the invisible shark in the pool. Oh, another motorcycle. Okay.
Vroom, vroom. Well, do you want to go into our Home Alone of it all final thoughts and ratings? Because we covered that.
If you had to pick one, what do you think the Home Alone of it all?
The Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone of it all? I really got to know. When is the Home Alone of it all?
What is the Home Alone of it all?
Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
I got tied up on that Home Alone of it all that time because somebody in that says, "Will somebody please tell me the Home Alone of it all?" And You know,
that was me. I was that somebody.
You?
I'm all of those guys.
Well, Alex, you've been on the show 1,000 times now,
Yeah.
almost as many times as souls escaped the ghost ship.
Whoa.
Listen, you know the drill. The Home Alone of it all, of course, is the idea that in the movie Home Alone, the movie we're all there, or the point of the movie we're all there to see, Kevin McAllister slaps down the blueprint that dictates a series of murders potentially. In this film, what is the moment you're there to see? Also, what are your final thoughts? And if you had to give it a rating, whether it be out of 5, out of 10, or some nonsensical rating that you decide to give it, the floor is yours.
Okay, my Home Alone of it all, which nobody is allowed to copy, is when they all split up and they have their individual ghost stories.
Very good.
I feel like that's kind of like, because you're like, okay, there's a spooky girl. How much of the rest of the people that you saw at the beginning are going to show up? And it's kind of ambiguous. And then I feel like that's when it's starting to be like, okay, we know it's a ghost ship because it's a spooky boat, and the movie is called Ghost Ship. But this is where it starts to demonstrate that it is a ghost ship full of ghosts. And I feel like the reversal of the ballroom is very like, okay, this ship is like haunted in like a super haunted way, and like it can totally change the reality that you're experiencing and stuff like that. So I feel like that was kind of my Home Alone of it all. I like the movie. I like every movie. I say this every time that I'm on the show, and anyone who will listen to me outside of the show is just, I just enjoy storytelling. So it's like, I like watching pretty much everything, because it's just like, oh, it's like you want to show me something happen, and I'll just watch it, and I will experience it. However you're trying to portray it, I will take it, and I'll just enjoy it. And this was no exception. It was pretty good. The effects were good. It wasn't too much a product of its time. There was a little bit of 2002-ness of it, but nothing too egregious. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was definitely good. If I'm going to give it a rating, I would say that it's not perfect, but it's, if you're going to slice someone in half, it's up to about here, like up to where the that's about that. That's all I would say. Where the captain got many Alfredo steaks or whatever.
You hit the nail on the head with the. You're gonna slice. You're gonna bisect. It's about.
You hit the mouth. You hit the captain in the mouth with the the metal wire on that one.
Great. How about you, Steve?
My Home Alone of it all is, I think, a little bit more specific, but it is the same moment. I mean, that's where you go to see any ghost movie or sort of haunted house adventure, people, slasher film, whatever you want to call it. But mine is when she's finding the bullet holes in the pool, because that's when my brain started to go absolutely bananas with the possibilities of what could have happened on this ship. It did kind of set up an expectation for the movie that wasn't really satisfied for me, but I still was satisfied by the end of the movie in terms of what they gave me. I would have liked a little bit more sleuthing and a little bit more detective work from our people on the boat, but they were preoccupied with trying not to die and having to clog the holes or whatever. But I did enjoy it. But that moment in particular, I thought was like, that's sort of like an excellent example of how to add intrigue into something like this, where you think you know what you're getting into, but then they throw something at you that is almost completely unexpected. I liked it a lot. So that's my Home Alone of it all. But in terms of the movie overall, this is, I think, my favorite genre within a genre of horror movie. Horror, I don't like to call myself like, oh, I'm a horror guy, but like more and more I'm starting to realize like that is exactly what I am. The genre that I watch the most is horror. And within that genre, isolation movies are my favorite, where people are trapped in a particularly sticky situation and they have to find their way out. And there's something either supernatural or horrific or monstrous that is slowly messing with them, either that be psychological or physically hunting them down or whatever. You know, Alien is one of my favorite movies ever made. Event Horizon, which we've covered before, is one of those movies that I forgot how much I liked until we revisited it. And this movie has a little bit of both of those in it. So if you like Alien and if you like Event Horizon, you might just like Ghost Ship. If I had to give it a rating, oh, mamma mia.
You do.
I would say it's a 40-year-old can of baked beans, maggot-free. Maggot-free. No maggots in that.
Oh, there you go. So it's the first half of eating a can of maggots.
Exactly.
Well, I know Alex told me not to do this, but my Home Alone at all is literally the same. The sequence where they have to survive the night and it becomes a giant haunted house for the second time, I might add.
Yeah, I mean, Alex just kind of said that's you didn't specify which one. I assumed the second one, but the first one's pretty good too.
The first one's pretty good too. The second one was my Home Alone at all. My final thoughts are: I thought this was a pretty fun film overall. It felt more like a haunted house sort of movie than Deep Rising, which felt like a Portal to Hell movie, like Event Horizon. There was some great horror and some cool twists that genuinely got me. I thought it took a little long to get going, but once we got to the horror of it all, it moved quick. Shout out to the Jason/Freddy style ending. I gave this a 3 out of 5. I give this a Carl Urban going through a grinder and the hose goes from seawater to Kool-Aid.
When you said this is more of a portal to hell, I was like, more like port to hell. Am I right? Am I right? Anyway.
Boat door.
Why don't they just call them boat doors?
Why don't they just call them boat doors? Porthole to hell.
Well, yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, I guess we have to do our plugs.
Do our plugs, yeah.
All right. Oh my God.
All right, let me just plug this in right here and.
That's right.
No one got electrocuted in this movie. Usually when water's involved.
Surprisingly.
They didn't have electricity in the 60s.
That's true.
I honestly thought when they started doing the pump situation, I was like, somebody's getting electrocuted, right? But they didn't. Alex, what do you got to promote, plug, or tell us about this week?
I don't really I never have anything to plug. Just watch my other episode. Oh, show my giraffe picture again. Everyone just enjoy my giraffe picture.
Well, that's a really good plug because you created this.
Yeah. Go to the zoo, you know? Go to the zoo. Go
a giraffe with its tongue out shouldn't make me laugh as hard as this photo does.
I was so happy when I took that picture. I took that picture and I was like, hell yeah, dude.
It's a very good picture.
Oh yeah, dude.
That giraffe might be pregnant. There's 2 giraffes and one of them is pregnant.
This photo you took is also incredibly good.
Yeah. Burr dang, burr dang.
Burr ding.
But yeah, watch my other episodes. I have a playlist.
That's true. World mind.
Nobody gets sucked into a toilet. That's true.
Which is another perfect opportunity in a cruise ship film. Nobody shits themselves to death like in Triangle of Sadness.
Is a toilet considered a porthole if it's on a boat?
I would say.
Only if it's on the port side of the ship.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Porthole to hell.
Well, Alex, you're welcome back anytime that you want to come back, and we'll tell you to come back several times. So, Steve, what do you got? What do you got cooking on the old back burner, buddy?
Well, we've got Stanland, which is going to premiere in September, which is a comedy serialized podcast. It's sort of like a D&D style adventure in a world that has been affected by essentially like gentrification, I guess. I play a bunch of different character voices in that, and we'll keep you updated whenever that comes out. And other than that, you can find me on Darth Theorist and the Three-Eyed Theorist, where I narrate and do the voices for 1 million episodes of both of those shows. I also write some of the episodes. I have made a playlist of all of my episodes that I've written. If anybody's interested, just let me know and I'll send it to you. And yeah, we're almost at 50K subs on Darth Theorist, and I think around 25 for the 3-Eyed Theorist. So yeah, keep subbing, keep watching. We appreciate all of you, and we love you. And thanks for listening. Jason, how about you?
Listen, it's real simple. Hey, did you see this one as a podcast that we've been doing since the beginning of time? I think at this point, we're almost to the 6-year anniversary coming up in a couple months. We have a great time doing this every week. It's been growing at a rate that I appreciate. I like all the people that come through and watch it. I also like the people that interact with the show on social media. I think that's really important as well. So thank you, everybody. We're coming up on 500 subs on YouTube, which I think is awesome. So every week you can find us typically on Thursday. This week I know it was on a Wednesday, but on Thursday at 8 p.m. on Twitch and YouTube and other social media elements, we go live, completely live. And then after the fact, I put up the show on demand on an audio version and a video version across the following weekend. So Saturday and Sunday. Saturday is the audio version. Sunday morning is the video on demand version. Go ahead and find that wherever you find your podcasts. For myself, though, Friday night this week on the 27th, I'm the announcer for Superkick Pro Wrestling here in Toronto. Here is the card. The card is subject to change, of course. I think Tarek is out, and that one-on-one match with Vision Orion he's been moved over to the 420 championship. But that's not the headline here. Al Snow, yes, that Al Snow, is in the main event against our reigning defending undefeated champion Jesse V for the Superkick championship. Taylor Rising is going up against a new contender. We have a fatal 4-way. We have 2 tag matches. One's for the tag championships. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be a great show. In addition to that, we have merch. I don't know if anybody knows that we have merch, but I'm going to tell you about the merch. Steven, the co-host of this podcast, great art. I don't know if you know that. You don't really tell people about your art as much, but I'm going to show the art right now.
All right.
Grimoire of Familiar Killers. This month is a spinoff of this very Grimoire, but you can get this on a T-shirt. You can get Kill Aid, who is a spinoff of course, Jason Voorhees. We have Twinkerbell. Twinkerbell's a huge seller in that only 2 people have bought it. You can get Zardos on a shirt, and you can get the Howie Mandel effect on a shirt. It makes me laugh every time. And coming soon, as soon as we get another person to buy Twinkerbell, we're going to put up Corporal Tuck Syndrome. Maybe for our 500th member of YouTube. I'll also put it up for that. Cool. So it is that point of the show. A lot of people say a lot of things. Oh, I'm getting an incoming transmission.
Look, somebody's got to say it, and it might as well be me. This ship is fucked up, Murphy.
Yep, this ship is fucked up, Murphy. There's one question that needs to be asked each and every week, and I would like now ask that question to everyone.
Hey, did you see this one?
Oh my goodness, we had some technical difficulties there. Wouldn't be Hey, did you see this one without technical difficulties? I think that
testicle difficulties.
Whoa.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track.
Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mario Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.
Did you kiss anyone at the Ren Fair, Steve?
Nah.
How about you, Andy?
I wish